welcome retired filmmaker George Lucas.
Lucas, creator of Star Wars, and welcome to the Lucas Talk Show. What are you there?
Can't find his glasses.
Watto, we've started the stream.
Can you hear me, George?
Yeah, I can hear you. The audio is good. Can't see you though.
Watto can't find his glasses. He's looking for his glasses. Just start the show and make it normal, George.
All right. Well, I'm making it normal. Oh no,
that's really how we're starting this show.
Patrick, you thirsty bitch, get off the stream. Watto goes on before you. Oh, sorry, it's already not normal. I mean, I guess it is because Patrick is always trying to get on the stream a little earlier. He's hungry for camera time. Oh. Watto, where was the last place you saw your glasses?
I'm worried now I might have left them at Yoko's.
Oh, how's Yoko doing?
Not great.
Yeah. Well, that's 2020, huh?
Yeah, she's been stealing everyone's glasses.
Oh. Well. All right, I saw your hand there, Watto.
Yeah, no, I'm looking somewhere for the glasses. Hold on one second. You can let Patrick in.
All right, Patrick, come on the stream. See, was that so hard to wait just a few minutes, Patrick?
I mean, I wanted to come on earlier, but I guess it's fine that I came on now.
I think it's fine that you came on now, and I don't think it's fine that you came on earlier.
Okay.
How was your week, Patrick? Normally, this is a part of the show where I ask Watto how his week was, but I'll ask you since Watto's looking for his glasses.
Thank you, George. My week was fine. It went by kind of quick. Feels like we were just here and now we're already back. But yeah.
No.
Patrick.
Yes, Watto.
I was going to say the same thing. Good job opening the show.
Thank you, Watto.
Oh, Patrick, I'm exhausted.
George, we're going to start the show in a few minutes. I want to tell everyone, if you're looking for the link to watch the show, I tweeted it out and it's pinned on my profile. You can find it there. There's a playlist, and we're just going to go through the playlist through every episode.
Are we pausing between episodes?
Yes, we'll be pausing between episodes. We have half-hour blocks per episode, even though the episode is only 22 minutes.
Oh, I'm already so tired.
George.
I'm exhausted. I was going to say the same thing, George.
No, I mean my arm is tired. My arm is tired. I wish you could see my legs. They're shaking.
Why would your arm be so tired right now, George? That's only one part of your body to be tired.
Watto, you'll know in a minute when you find your glasses.
Okay, I found my glasses. Hold on, I'm coming back in.
Oh no, George. Oh no.
Oh,
George.
Oh, my arm hurts.
George.
My arm. Oh.
Anyways, I hope people are excited for the show. I watched it this week, and it's great. I really love this show. I think it's very.
This is the first time you watched the George Lucas Talk Show?
Yeah.
We're late to the game on that one, Patrick.
Oh no! Oh no!
No! What?
Your glasses are falling off.
I don't. My face feels different this week. I feel somehow different.
Yeah.
Now you understand why I lost my glasses. They're not sticking to my face as well.
We get it.
I get it.
I'm sorry since I didn't open the show because I was looking for my glasses. Can I do my throat clearing now?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'll go off frame for a second.
Okay. So then this is the part of the opening where Watto just stares down the camera and Patrick.
Can we have Watto full frame?
Worried.
We have a single on Watto.
That I don't know that I'm live.
Watto.
Okay, that's all I wanted to do.
Okay, thank you guys. Guys, let's we should start this episode. We should start the first episode.
All right, and Watto, so nice to see you.
Always a pleasure to see you, George.
Hey, Patrick, you were saying before, I think you were intending, and then I had a little fun with you. I think you were intending to say that Muppets Tonight is a great show.
Yes, I really like the show. I think it's a lot of fun.
I do too. I think it's gonna be a fun day.
Are we all ready to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me just put something down.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna put something down too.
Yeah, no, I'm ready to start.
Oh, okay. I don't need to put anything down, but here we go. You ready? 1, 2.
Okay, well.
All right.
I said I was ready to start, but I was not ready to start. So now I'm going to pretend that I was ready to start and try to catch up with you guys without tipping off anyone to the fact that I'm actually behind.
That's good. That's good. So let's give
WATTO not ready this week. I will say this. WATTO, tired, week went too fast, didn't sleep well.
Yeah.
I'm ready now.
We should probably pull the curtain back a little bit and reveal to the viewer that we played a little trick on you this week.
We did a little trick. You might not have noticed.
Wait, what? What trick?
Well,
I can't speak for you. George and I were doing a bit.
Yeah, Watto and I, we had these puppets.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Patrick, look down. What's down there?
Oh,
Patrick.
no. Oh, no.
Patrick.
It's a boy. It's a boy.
Do you feel something in your butt, Patrick?
He's probably asleep.
Oh, no.
Is there a sleeping man down at your feet?
Yeah, hang on 1 second.
And,
be careful poking him. His hands might be greasy with frozen sausages.
Yeah.
He's wearing the same shirt as I am.
Right. Well, that tracks.
George. George, did you glue the glasses in place on Puppet George?
No, they came pre-attached.
Man, Watto needs to get some glue on this thing.
There was a little.
Now you understand why he was losing his glasses so quick.
There was some glue that came with the puppet, though.
Yes,
that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
And
came here a thoughtful package.
We should say these came from CBC 9000 on Twitter and Instagram.
That's right. Follow CBC 9000. We're trying to get her to have more followers than Patrick Connor.
Yeah, a noble goal.
Unprovoked, unasked for, came as a total surprise, and they're the best.
Yeah, and I want to show the level of detail. The shirt that Puppet George is wearing is the same, and the back as a full Howard the Duck patch that is embroidered on the back of this jacket. So it's just the way I dress.
Yes, these are very detailed puppets.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, I mean, look, I'm thrilled with my puppet. George, I think yours is an incredible likeness. Yeah. Patrick is lacking a few details.
Well, yeah.
The eyes are open. There are no whiskers.
No sausages in the mouth.
No sausages in the mouth. It's not exactly screen accurate.
Sure.
The apparel is right. The hairstyling is on point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be nice. I would love and include the little cupcake option, but you can't ask for everything.
I'm trying. His email password should be on there somewhere.
Oh, no.
Yes, it should be on the body of the puppet.
Hey, look who's on screen, guys! Look who's on screen.
That's right, it's Clifford.
And
is that a relative of yours, Patrick?
Yeah.
Rizzo the Rat.
I'm still trying to catch up, but don't tell the audience. I think they don't know.
I won't tell them.
I won't tell them, Watto.
I will say that, Patrick, I know one of the reasons you must love this show is that there are so many rats on it and so much cheese.
There's so many rats and so much.
There really is. This is, look, already cheese is running across the screen. This show was made for Patrick.
Can we talk about, even though I am not watching live at this moment as I struggle to get it queued up on my YouTube with one hand, can we talk about that this show, immediate big decision. Kermit is no longer the host. He doesn't want to be the host. Clifford is now the host of this show, and he gets stuck with the job because he is on a cell phone call with his girlfriend while everyone else walks out, leaving him as the sort of not it.
Yeah.
Standing, the last not it standing, right?
Also, the show within the show starts, I think, 1 minute after the show we're watching starts, which is very interesting. There's a slight time shift. We enter the action before they go live.
George, we do have some fan art already. Can I show you?
Let's see it.
The first one is I love it.
The first one is I love it. That's not
the first one. I love it. Is I love it. This is from @PizzaToilet. This is George as Clifford.
Make sure that all of these things also get sent to the Lucas Museum. I want to make sure that all of the fan art, when we eventually open, ideally a whole wing of the museum will just be fan art from the show.
George, it's Cliff Fisto from @LandryMatt.
So good.
Wait, now I have some big questions.
Yeah.
If George is Clifford, is WATTO Pepe?
I think
WATTO is Pepe, regardless of what.
I think so too. And if WATTO is Pepe, is Patrick Seymour or is he Bobo?
I would love to be Bobo.
Well, I would say on a level of professionalism, you're definitely Bobo.
Yeah.
Yes. In that case, yes, he is Bobo.
But it's hard for me. To look at all these rats and not think that they are all Patrick.
Well, I'm also Seymour in that I'm probably a fan favorite, and then I'll disappear pretty quickly, unfortunately.
Right.
Which is sad, because I like Seymour.
Yes. No. After 187 hours of this show.
Yeah.
I like Seymour. I think there's a lot. Something I want to talk about today is how I think there's a lot of great characters in this show that don't necessarily port over to other projects, and I think that's a bummer. And I'm curious how other people think about it. You know?
You mean like some of our special guests, how they would think about it?
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, Patrick, people will either agree with you or they'll disagree with you or they'll be ambivalent. Those are your three options. So now you
those are the three options.
Yeah. Those are the three options.
Yeah, I do think though, one of the things that is I think really great about this show.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good update on the Muppet Show formula. It stays true to all the things that are great about the Muppet Show, but it isn't stuck in the past. There are a lot of new characters that instantly become regulars and recurring that are just as funny. I really think that for people who like the Muppet Show, this is 2 full seasons of, we've seen a lot of examples over the past decade or so of TV shows that are rebooted or brought back. And I think this is a really successful example. I think we'll get to one later, but the way they update some of the staging when they do an ER parody later on, not the same as the hospital soap opera. They've changed it aesthetically so that the camera is moving like ER, updated. Just really good stuff. Andy and Randy are great.
I agree.
Thank God, I finally found it.
You got it.
Watto, you have to turn your volume down, or we can hear you.
I turned it down. Hold on.
Hold on.
8:18. What a great start to this live stream. Isn't this a fun thing about the marathons? That every singular minute becomes less precious. WATTO can just fuck up for 17 minutes straight.
Yeah, that does make us different than any other TV show. That would be a catastrophe. 17 before we establish base normalcy.
Yeah.
But it truly...
James Corden isn't allowed to go live looking for his glasses, and then after 17 minutes, look at the camera and go, "Look, that you got to give me a mulligan for that one." What can I say?
We should talk about what today is raising money for.
Metric. There you are, keeping us on track.
Yeah, it's for an organization called Fair Fight, which was started in part by Stacey Abrams down in Georgia to help promote fair elections, make sure all votes are counted, make sure there's election literacy and people are able, know all the ways that they're able to vote and get ready and get out there and do good in the world. So we are raising money for it today, and I hope that you guys will donate throughout the day. There's a link up here, bit.ly/GLTSgives, and we will keep track of it, how much is coming in. Right now, we're at $145.29.
Oh boy. Okay, wait. Go back to the spreadsheet. Let's add some things to the spreadsheet.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's see here. BB8 444, energy drink 666, deflate BB88. We need the big sort of what happens every 1,000 goals.
Yeah. What do you want it to be, Watto?
Trying to think. I had one planned, and then the thing did not arrive in time.
Okay.
Well,
So I'm saving it for a further.
Yeah, we should.
No, we're not going to do that, George. We can't.
Never tell me the odds.
Okay, now we're back to Puppet, George.
Hold on. I'm just doing.
You're talking about this being a good update, George. I think, as you said, I think it's a great balance of the original characters, giving you enough of them, but also trying to let some new characters shine. Because I think it was the time that they had the right creative instincts of, if you're going to build a new Muppets, you need to have the current crop of Muppeteers feel invested in their own characters rather than just taking over legacy characters. You need to let new puppeteers come in with new comedic energy, new characters. I know some of the characters like Clifford were on Jim Henson Hour and things like that. But you have characters who are coming into leading roles for the first time. I mean, this is Rizzo's first time on like a regular TV show, even though he had been in the movies. And then you have an entirely new character.
And this is before. Now, obviously, a lot of movie stars will also do television, but this is the late 90s. Getting a movie star to do television was a big deal back then.
Because Rizzo was a big movie star. He had starred in 3 movies above the title at this point.
And he had been on Jim Henson Hour and Muppet Show, but not to this extent.
No, very small appearances on the Muppet Show. Jim Henson Hour, bigger role, but once again, it not a big hit. That was them trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit. Yeah. And Henson sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out as to whether he wanted to do Kermit and Friends anymore. Yeah. Another thing I think this updates well is like you got big ass guest stars. First episode, Michelle Pfeiffer, mid-90s. That feels equivalent with the types of guest stars they had on the original Muppet Show, where you have huge sort of A-list talent. Yeah. And I think people watching along with us are going to be shocked, either seeing for the first time or remembering, oh my God, this person hosted Muppets Tonight. Yeah. And as you said, George, I think also they do a good job of the updates of like, if the Muppet Show was parodying, a medical show, then it would be ER. Baywatch would have to happen, and then you get shit like this, which is just fun of like, now you're Muppets Tonight doing a retro segment closer to the time of the original Muppet Show.
Right.
I'm a big fan of this series. I've always contended it's underrated.
I am too. I rewatched it all this week in prep for this, and I remembered I liked it a lot, but I was shocked by just how much I liked it.
Right, well, and it's not just kids stuff either.
No,
great for kids, but a lot of jokes here for adults, and a lot of jokes that were timely in a way that you when you watch it now, you actually you have to know a certain amount about recent American history and culture to truly absorb the complexity of some of these references.
Yeah,
I want to introduce something that Oh, WATTO! I like this.
That's a good
I
one.
want to introduce something I didn't run by the two of you, but it feels
That's fine.
essential.
Yeah. Oh no, guys, hang on one second. Hang on
What?
one second.
Oh no.
I mean, we saw WATTO and Georgeford.
I mean, yes, piss of the pack. The likeness here is incredible.
Well, is this the first photograph that someone submitted? I know we've had a lot of fan art before, but this is this looks like a
Yeah, does this
photograph.
qualify as fan art?
Oh,
This is
God.
this is a
great photography.
paparazzi picture.
What were you going to run by us, Watto?
Yeah. What
Well,
are you gonna
usually on the George Lucas talk show, we talk about Star Wars detours, the fully produced but unreleased George Lucas animated Star Wars comedy that Disney has left on a shelf, right?
Oh.
But it feels like there's a more relevant issue for us to be talking about today.
Yeah.
This is cute.
This is cute.
Look at that.
Are we looking at the Hungry Heroes, Jar Jar, and Master replicas?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Watto knows his merch.
He
Master
does.
replica, Kermit and Gonzo. Those are good pieces.
Hot
Watto's
commodity.
envious.
Yeah. Okay, so what were you suggesting, Watto?
Muppets Tonight. 0 episodes on Disney Plus. The
Zero.
Muppet Show.
Zero.
0 episodes on Disney Plus. Now, I believe the commonly held thought is that with both of these shows, it is the high cost of music licensing because they have so many musical performances and parodies that were not cleared for streaming back in the day because streaming didn't exist and they would have to pay extra.
Yeah.
Hey, fucking Disney, pay extra.
Yes.
If only Disney had some money on hand. Like if they had some cash on hand, I think they could probably.
But I think we need to come up with a hashtag for what people should tweet at Disney Plus to tell them to release the Muppet Show and Muppets Tonight.
Yeah.
We'd love to be watching this on Disney Plus.
Oh,
They didn't give us the option.
they didn't give us a choice. Michelle Pfeiffer and Miss Piggy have now met. For those of you who are following the episode along, they've both been booked as guest hosts. And right now, Miss Piggy is not recognizing Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah. George, we're up to 709.61, which means George needs to inflate the BB-8.
All right. Well, I'm
I
going
need
to
to
take
chug an energy
off of my hand to do this.
Okay.
All right. We'll see Puppet George later on.
Yeah.
I also want to point out, if we look at the stretch goals,
Yeah.
let me see where they are. So I inflate the BB-8, and then I will deflate the BB-8. And then when we get to, is it 1,500?
Yes.
I will inflate the BB-8. Great.
And we don't know what that means.
I haven't told anyone what that means.
Yeah. I wish you knew.
You wish that I would tell you?
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, you didn't get your wish.
A single donation of 3,280, I believe, says we'll watch The Irishman after this. Watto's being real loud right now.
Shall we say, I want to set a high goal for later on.
Sure.
I washed BB-8 and he's all wet. Let me see those stretch goals.
Sure.
All right. We got a real desert there. Stretch goals.
Yeah.
But I want this one to be a little bit later. So let's put this at 5,000.
Okay.
5,000. We'll have an I'll have a moment.
Okay. George will have a moment.
I'll have a moment. And capitalize
Sure. Moment.
capitalize it.
Okay.
All of it. All caps.
Okay.
And put periods after M and then O and then M.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
That's at 5,000.
Do want to point out we have some good New Zealand content on screen right now. He's one of the Von Trapp kids. We all love New Zealand. Good guy.
No fish in sight. Does he have a fish?
Yeah, I don't think he has a fish. I believe he's playing.
I know, but it's rare that you see him without his famous flying fish.
Yeah.
But we have Randy and Andy Pig, who are Miss Piggy's nephews, also new characters who really get the spotlight on this show. New Zealand. Who's this fourth Muppet? Is it the Whatnot?
I believe it's a Whatnot, Watto. Yeah.
Is it the Whatnot?
I think it's a Whatnot, Watto.
Get ready for 9 hours of us dropping deep Muppet terminology like Whatnot.
Do you think that one was made at the old FAO Schwartz?
I think this was made at the workshop, right?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Do you think there was a moment though where they like ran out of Whatnots and they were like, "Quick, run down to FAO and grab a couple"?
I mean, it would make sense why the budget of the show was so big. Every time they needed a new character, they had to take a cab to FAO and then buy their marked up.
It's hard to know where. It's hard to know where reality and fiction, they're so blended in this. Conceivably, they didn't know that there was going to be a show until a minute before they were on the air.
That's true.
Yeah.
Especially if Clifford was the one in charge of getting the Whatnots. He's busy on the phone with the GM.
I wonder. We never meet Clifford's love interest, do we?
I don't think so.
I mean, she's so significant in his achieving this job and really changes the what the show is, and yet we never meet her.
Okay, do we want to do just split screen quickly while George goes full tilt on the BB-8 and I chug the energy drink? I've gone back to the classic Coca-Cola energy drink after a couple marathons where I think I was doing the flavored Red Bull. Yeah, it's really a pick your poison situation.
Statler and Waldorf are in an old folks home.
Yeah,
this is a thing I like. A good bit on this show.
Well, something that I also like is, and we'll get to this in a later episode, but for the first season, they're in the old folks home. And then in the second season, they start to branch out and put them in other places. They go to like ski resorts and sitting by the pool. And I don't know. I think it's fun. You get to see them out in the real world, which is great.
I want to go ahead and use this as an opportunity. I believe I pitched this idea, and I think it would be perfect for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because maybe I think what we need in order to get more Muppet content on Disney Plus, for the Muppet content that is there to do so well that it raises the flag. You know, that I think we need to get their attention by watching all of the Muppet content. Even honestly, there's a trick you can do. Just click it when you're not using your device.
Yeah.
Yes.
Click Muppet stuff and then just do other stuff. You don't even, if you've seen it before and you don't have time, just watch it all the time. It'll add to their oh wow, we've already finished the first episode.
It went by so fast, it feels like I didn't even see the first 15 minutes of it.
Now, George, Watto,
yes.
We are about to start the second episode, and I do have a guest.
What?
Now, today, for this marathon, it's going to be a mix of both people who have worked on the show and fans of the show, fans of the Muppets, fans of the show, people we like. We want to get them on.
Well, we got the show to do, and we do it for you.
We do it for you.
And we'll come back to my idea later on. I planted the thing, but I'll come back to talking about it later on. Remind me.
Yeah. So our first guest is he's a TV and comic book writer, and he's got a new book out, guys, and it's called DC Christmas Carols. We Wish You a Harley Christmas. That's the real title. Guys, here he is, Daniel Kibblesmith.
Hey, hello, friends.
Daniel,
longtime friend of the show. Hello, Daniel.
Longtime friend.
George, hello, Watto.
I want to say that your appearance has coincided with the debut of Bill Bubbles on Muppets Tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one that I'm on board for.
Yeah.
Bubbles.
Yeah.
Bill Bubbles. It got the big Kibblesmith energy, Bill Bubbles.
Oh, I can't wait. I don't know what that means.
I'd say, first of all, I think he's got energy similar to you as a person, and also he feels like something you would create as a writer.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I mean it in both senses and only as a compliment. Daniel,
I'm excited.
Am I incorrect in thinking you appeared 3 times at the live stage show, or was it only twice?
Was it 3? I think it was 3. Yeah.
You may be the person with the most appearances on.
I was going to say
That makes me so honored and so sick in my stomach at the same time.
You might be our Alec Baldwin. But am I also correct in thinking it was 3 consecutive Life Day shows?
You're correct. Yes.
Right.
And then I couldn't do the last one because I was out of town. But I was on 3 consecutive.
That was proved to be crucial because now we're not going to do them anymore.
Yeah,
I broke Life Day.
Yeah, and the UCB. You and Seth Simon single-handedly, or double-handedly.
Well, that was on purpose. That part was by design.
Yeah, no, I know.
Let's start this episode. This episode is Garth Brooks.
And like you've never seen him before.
I've seen him before in this episode, but I know what you mean.
Not like this. Not like this.
That's what's so tricky about this episode. It's like how wherever you're standing, it feels like the Mona Lisa is looking at you. Even if you've seen this episode before, you've never seen him like this.
Got it.
All right, here we go. So we're gonna press play.
Okay.
In 1, 2, 3.
All right, there they are. Yo, Riz.
Yo, Riz. We love Riz. Daniel, who's your favorite Muppet? I feel like this is a big question to start out on, but I think it's worth it.
My favorite Muppet is Oscar the Grouch.
Great.
It's not hard. I mean, I know that he's Sesame Street, but I still think it's canonical.
Yes.
I mean, when I was a kid, I was all about Kermit, though. I always gravitated towards the sort of like Eye of the Storm protagonists, sort of like the blank characters that you could map yourself onto. Oh,
Daniel, I'm curious if you want to change your answer now.
No, I feel very confident in my answer.
Oh, okay.
Is that WATTO?
WATTO.
Daniel, I'm curious if you want to change your answer now.
Yeah, I want to change my answer to.
If you want to change your answer now.
If I knew we were doing this bit, I would have gotten mine. I have one. I have one of myself, made by Aaron Gleason, who's a really funny comedian who does stuff with Wham City. But it still has a full head of hair because it's from 2008.
That's where they get you. The Muppets.
Obama.
Obama.
Oh, Kermit was on this show.
Yeah, look at him.
Yeah.
All right, I've inflated the BB-8.
Okay, Daniel, one of the stretch goals for our fundraiser is for every certain amount of money, George will inflate or deflate the BB-8 that he has.
Got it.
Brand.
So if more people donate money, he will start deflating a BB-8 that he inflated from people donating money.
Yeah.
We raised literally thousands of dollars just doing that.
It is weirdly one of the biggest incentives for people to donate.
Is it like an act of malice? Like they want to see him physically exert himself?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the question about this entire show.
Yeah, the motives of the people who are helping a great cause are always in question.
Yeah,
right.
I wonder. We're speculating about Muppets Tonight is not available on Disney Plus, and I'm wondering, and there could be legal paperwork somewhere that is tied up in this. In every single episode, in the opening credit, in the opening theme song, they twice guarantee that the show will be brand new. Which means
we got the show to do guaranteed
brand new.
Yeah.
Now, legally, what we're doing now is effectively voiding that guarantee because these are decades old.
Yeah.
Yes.
None of these are brand new. And I'm wondering, was there something grandfathered into the contract where these can only be shown once? It can't be true because these ones that we're watching now have a Disney Channel bug in the corner.
Yeah.
So Disney has already voided the warranty on this. They've already lied to the people by showing guaranteed new episodes that are in fact old. Bubble Bill.
What? Bill!
I love that you guys keep calling him Bubble Bill when his name is Bill the Bubble Guy.
I call him Bubble-O Bill.
I like that though.
Bubble-O Bill.
Yeah.
I only caught him for a second. He's got like kind of that. Yeah.
He's a goofball, and bubbles come out of his head.
I actually think he's pretty sort of straight-laced kind of guy. He's a pretty no nonsense, with the exception of the fact that bubbles come out of his head.
pretty
Yeah.
star.
He's
Did
like
I say-
like a
No, what
like-
you're going to say, Daniel?
well, he's like a Hodgman cameo, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like he has fun energy, but he's not going to be doing most of the punchlines.
I would love to see Hodgman as Bill the Bubble Guy.
Oh,
I'd love to see Hodgman make a cameo on the George Lucas talk show.
I can't imagine there being very many barriers to that happening.
No,
He's on the live
it almost feels like Hodgman keeps on saying that he would like to do it, and then WATTO keeps on reminding Patrick.
is it almost like that?
It's almost. I tried to come up with an analogy. It's as if. Look, we love all our guests here. We love don't we love our guests? We love all our.
I love him.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying we love all our guests.
People are saying it more and more.
People are saying more and more. Kibblesmith, this is the person we are all talking about, and we're going to keep talking about.
I do think there is a chance that Hodgman was on the live show, and there was a bit of a disaster. Darth Vader invaded the show on Star Wars Day. He might be terrified.
Oh, that's probably what it is. Oh,
Yeah.
there's old folks home, Statler and Waldorf.
I
Yeah.
love. Oh,
Which I agree with you guys that this is a good bit. I like when they try to apply Statler and Waldorf to the new logic of the situation, like when they were on Muppet Babies, but they were
Yes,
like old uncles.
the old uncle.
That you have to imagine they were like 60 rather than 80 when they were on Muppet Babies.
well, this might be a good time, Daniel, for me to reveal my pitch, and this is Disney Plus can run with this because we're saying in order to get old classic Muppet content on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Really, the engine for that won't be nostalgia. It will be new excitement about the Muppets because there is that very much that what are people talking about now? What are they excited about today? I think they should do a live action series that featuring Statler and Waldorf. It starts off in World War II. Two young men. It starts off as Saving Private Ryan. And we follow these young men from the Greatest Generation because that's what they were. Statler and Waldorf were Greatest Generation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! Hold on 1 second. Sorry, I was negligent in my duties. It's episode 2 of Muppets Tonight, which means I need to put on my sequel hat. Daniel, as you know, whenever it's episode 2, Watto's the same except with a little hat.
Right. That's how episode 2s of things work.
Yes.
That is exactly how they work here. But you follow them through their lives, through their middle age, through their disappointments, failed marriages. One of them, perhaps maybe both of them, name names during the House on Un-American Activities.
Sure. Or just one of them does, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. A little bit Mad Men, a little bit Trumbo, all of these things, all of these elements. We follow them through the 60s.
George.
Yeah.
This is just me spitballing.
Right.
Do you think there should be a third? Like there's Statler, Waldorf, and then another guy, and then when they name names, they name that guy, and that's where
that's a great idea because then you have a trio. They betray their friend.
Yeah.
I think one of them probably cuckolds the other one. I think they go through a lot.
Almost certainly.
But
I remember this one freaking me out. This is the turkey in the oven while it's still alive. That one actually freaked me out when I was a kid.
No, I think that's correct because there's no scenario. Dr. Phil Van Neuter.
We love him.
I almost asked in advance. I almost texted Patrick last night to say, "Do you have the Dr. Phil Van Neuter action figure?" And then I went, "Why waste the data?"
Sure.
Dr. Phil Van Neuter, I think maybe the most underrated of the new characters for this show. I know we're talking about the heavy hitters, and I feel like Bill the Bubble Guy, real heads are going to pick Bill the Bubble Guy, but I very rarely, even on the deepest of Muppet fan forums, Fiamma's a pro. Johnny Fiamma's a pro, but Phil Van Neuter rules, and it's a good sort of like lateral of Muppet Labs. It's a thing I like about this show, that they don't rest on their laurels, and they're like, we'll have Bunsen and Beaker, but maybe bring back Muppet Labs is like a double beat. Go to like Mad Scientist with an Igor. Make it more horror, Jason.
Yeah. I like Mulch too. His Igor, it's kind of class. He's fun.
Yeah,
Everything you're saying sounds like it should have worked better than it did. Like, these are all good ideas when you repeat them later.
But my take is that this show does work, and I'm not sure why it didn't succeed as well as it did. I think it was because it was on ABC, maybe. I think if it had been on Disney Channel or something like that, maybe it could have found the audience a little bit better. Because
it ended up, didn't the second half of the second season go to Disney Channel? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a second season. This is how I'm learning that there was a
That's the
second
thing.
season.
It mostly got sort of like buried, and then it ended up on Disney Channel later with very little promotion.
Was this like a Catch-22 thing where it only got greenlit because it was like riding that sort of experimental Simpsons wave, and like Dinosaurs was out, and I assume we're going to watch all of Aliens in the Family after this.
Daniel, this is the question we're hoping to answer today when we have some guests stop by.
I mean, can I throw out my theories?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disney had just done the last two Muppet movies. Of course, Disney was negotiating to try to buy the Muppets in the late 80s, right? That deal doesn't happen, but then they make two films with them. They do some home video releases. And this felt like the end of that like wave of, if we can't own them, let's just stay in business with them, right?
Yeah.
I also think this is right after Disney buys ABC. That happens not too soon before this. So I think it's also Disney trying to say, like, what are the things that we could throw onto ABC to supercharge it? You know, Disney sort of like library stuff. And to some degree, maybe Disney was more precious about their own catalog of what they owned. They didn't want to do adaptations of their shows, but they have the partnership with the Muppets. They're a little less precious about that. That was always my theory.
I think Watto's right about this. It sounds very sound.
I also think the difference between a syndicated program in the late 1970s and a network program in the late 1990s, in between those two events, you have the explosion of options. I know it seems small compared to now, but cable television, it was just easier for this show to sort of get swallowed up in the rising tide of content than when you had three networks and a syndicated show could sort of like run like wildfire through the culture.
Am I incorrect in remembering this show airing on like Sunday evenings as well?
I'm not sure about the dates.
I remember it as being a temporary TGIF fixture.
Yeah.
But weren't they all?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that
you're right
one of the things that you'll find on the Wikipedia page for Muppets Tonight is that Jaleel White blames Muppets Tonight for the ultimate demise of Family Matters because the Muppets Tonight made TGIF look like it was for kids.
Okay, new pitch. It's an Aaron Sorkin behind the scenes. Maybe it's like a 3-part. Maybe it's like a Looming Tower. You know, it's a prestige miniseries all about that feud.
Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah, it's a Trial of the Chicago 7 about Jaleel White versus Muppets Tonight.
Our last marathon was Studio 60, and that entire time, those 20 hours I spent watching that series, I kept thinking to myself, why hasn't Sorkin gone back to the sketch comedy well? It's such a good world for him.
Yeah, he's a really natural fit.
Right, and I'm watching Chicago 7. I go, what's this guy doing in the courtroom? This is not what this is not the right arena for Sorkin. It's such a stretch.
Something
People giving verbose speeches on the idea of what democracy is supposed to represent.
Yeah.
No, put them in a sketch comedy writers room.
Right, like in a formalized structure where people like are bound by the rules of taking turns talking and proving points. It's
bad fit.
No.
I do want to point out though that by the time Muppets Tonight showed up, Family Matters had already done 7 seasons. So there were other factors at play that canceled. Yeah.
I think in terms of like
deprived them of reaching season 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the other wild thing is I know I've heard it cited many times, but especially in the Hulu documentary from a couple of years ago, the Dana Carvey show people also kind of blame Muppets Tonight because it was like that's the first season I think of ABC owned by Disney. Yeah. And this was a big bet for them, and Dana Carvey show was a big bet. And they did a promo photo shoot of Dana Carvey and Kermit together, I believe. And they were like, here's our new ABC family. And Dana Carvey was like, that just screwed us. Because people thought that they were the same show, that they were going to be very much the same tone.
And
Right. I also believe that Carvey made a mistake not reaching out to the Muppet Workshop to make those nipples when he played Bill Clinton in the.
They don't look great.
In the cold,
they don't look great. They could have used that workshop touch.
And do you guys know who was president of ABC at this point?
Bob
I do
Iger.
not.
This is to bring it back to your Studio 60 thing. It was Jamie Tarsis,
Jamie
who
Tarsis
was
with it.
the bassist for Amanda Pete's character in Studio 60.
So now we've got Pigs in Space: The Next Generation, which I'd completely forgotten about, but is a very intuitive decision.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's been another one.
Yeah.
Like you're a comedy writer. You're saying this, Daniel. Everything they're doing makes sense.
Everything they're doing makes sense. It's just that nobody really wanted it at the time.
Right. Like, I mean, I loved it. I still love it. But I feel like whether or not you like the final product, you cannot blame any of their reasoning.
No, I think for me, this is the strongest post-Muppet show. I think this makes as much sense as the movies. You know, hey, we used to do Muppet Fairy Tales. Let's do Muppet Treasure Island and Christmas Carol, and it works. Yeah. And this is just let's just do what would the Muppet Show be now? It would be essentially the same. Yeah, with updated references.
Right, and also it's this is the format that I think suits the Muppets best. I love the Muppet films, but they are in essence like vaudevillian characters. They work so well within a variety show. It is bizarre that this is pretty much the second and final time anyone has attempted that on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's funny. It's such a sweet spot of having to be, the show I think you're right. The show within the show is, I think, the glue that holds it all together for me. And even when I was a kid watching the movies, I was like, I don't totally get how Kermit and Miss Piggy don't know each other because they're playing roles within roles. And then they have to do kind of the same conceits at the top of the movie to say, in this one, we're brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to know the grand unifying theory that Watto puts his stock into for how the Muppet movies fit into the universe?
Yeah, please, yes.
So the Muppet show comes first, right? As the whole first holistic Muppet work, putting aside commercials and appearances on other things, Ed Sullivan Show, whatever, right? The Muppet movie starts with them driving up to the studio to see the screening of the Muppet movie.
Right.
Before the lights go down, Robin asks Kermit, is this how it really happened? Leonard Nimoy on screen. That's the thing. This show got big guests. Yeah. He's not even the guest star. He's just another little bonus.
Here, he's wearing khakis.
Yeah.
So is this how the Muppets really met? And Kermit goes, well, kind of. And then the movie starts, right? So you're like, you're watching the Muppets watch a movie that they've admitted is a lightly fictionalized version of their backstory.
You have signed on to recursive artifice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the movie, within the movie they're watching, they make it to the studio, and Orson Welles signs them to the standard rich and famous contract. And the end of that movie is them trying to put together the movie that you've just watched.
Right. And they do the Michel Gondry Bjork video thing where you see a worse version of what you just saw.
Yeah.
So every Muppet movie has its own canon because the Muppet movies are the movies that the Muppets from the Muppet Show are making. The Muppet Show
Garth Brooks is doing Tevye. Garth Brooks is doing Tevye.
So we didn't talk about this, but the runner in this is that he wants to do legitimate theater, right?
Yes.
And that's why he was doing a Shakespeare riff with Miss Piggy at the beginning.
They're excited that they have country superstar Garth Brooks, and he wants to do anything except country music songs. I really think we are seeing the birth of Chris Gaines in this episode because this is where he is essentially workshopping, doing characters, doing things that are. I think by the end of this episode, Chris Gaines is in his mind, if it wasn't already there at the beginning. I want to do characters. I want to be Tevye. I want to do the Mamba. you really see that hunger in Garth.
Chris Gaines might have worked better as a puppet. Now that I think through it.
Chris Gaines is proof that Garth Brooks is a whatnot.
He is a whatnot. He's got this sort of whatnot. He's
blank
bald.
egg head.
Right. He just got very clean cut features. You could put anything on him to modify it.
Slap the full patch on.
Yeah, the cowboy hat rests with like a ring of Velcro on the inside.
There is no comedy character with a cleaner, clearer game than Buffalo Bill, because he literally walks into every scene and says, "I'm Bill. Bubbles come out of my head," and it's just like this guy would be great on a. I know that Buffalo Bill was never on Harold Night, but this guy would be great for Scene Partners. He steps out, he says that you know what the game of the scene is. Bubbles come out of his head.
George, do you know that for a fact?
Yeah, I checked the IRC. Okay. Buffalo Bill was never on Harold Night.
This is a thing I love that Muppets Tonight carries, and it and Muppet Show, I feel like, are the only two things to do this that I can think of, at least, where it's like, because of the backstage on stage premise going back and forth between the two, not only does the Muppet Show and Muppets Tonight allow its celebrity guest stars to like show sides of themselves that they maybe don't get to do in anything else, right? You have sort of them doing different types of musical numbers, or musicians are doing comedy, comedians are doing dance, whatever it is. But also, the guest stars have like an arc. Like there's always some sort of arc and bigger game to what they're playing. Of like, you know, Garth Brooks doesn't want to do country music. Michelle Pfeiffer has the rivalry with Kiki. Like it just gives the guest stars so much to do. It gives them a real narrative to play, and also get to show off different skills that they maybe don't get to.
The great Garth Show has arrived. The great Garth Show.
Yeah, Gonzo and Garth are wearing twin jetpacks.
Now, Daniel, if you were a guest, Daniel, who would you want your main plot to be with? Like which Muppet?
Oh, like what my runner would be regarding?
I feel like there's a lot of times where like you watch, I don't know, you watch some episode and it's like, oh, this person really liked Crazy Harry, or this person really liked Bobo.
Right. And at the time you can see like a lot of people are picking Miss Piggy. Like you can tell that they're sort of like the buy-in for them doing the show is Miss Piggy is really big right now and I want to do
She's
something.
The biggest star. Yes. She's the big name at this point. Yes.
That's a great question. I feel like I'm kind of like an even-keeled kind of guy, so Animal would be really fun.
Yeah.
You know, like it'd be fun is doing like an arc where I'm like making Animal more boring. Like I'm boring and it's contagious, and then by the end, Animal is wearing like a tie and like a short-sleeved dress shirt.
Sure.
And then like the culmination of that is that like I have to cut loose so we fix Animal.
Great.
I was going to say that would be my pass on it. Is I feel like there has to be a transference. I think you need to become wild, and Animal has to become boring, and then at the end you have to reset each other.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun too. Yeah, like I would come in with my own low key vibes.
Yeah. Yes.
Now I know that. You know, in recent years, obviously, like Cookie Monster, now cookies are just a sometimes food, and they'll make moves with legacy characters to sort of bring them into the 21st century. Have they done a sensitivity training with Animal in any context?
Yeah, because he's real horn dog, right? I mean, that used to be kind of the root of that.
Scenarios where the human female guest, where he will just chase them away, screaming, woman, woman. Yeah. Muppets Take Manhattan opens with them on a college campus, and you see a woman screaming as she runs down the aisle, and then you see that it's because Animal is chasing after, going, "Woman, woman!"
In the ABC show, he goes to it's not a rehab facility, but it's like a meditation, like calm down, breathe. He like goes to one of those.
Yeah. And in the Muppets, the film, the James Bobin movie, similarly, when they're getting the gang back together.
Maybe I'm thinking of that.
Yes. Right. Kristen Shaw is the instructor, and he's trying to get over his anger issues.
Yeah.
So we've hit the part in the Garth episode, and this is one of the reasons I was excited about doing this one. This is the second episode, and I was such a big Muppet kid that the second episode has them all singing in a church to Garth Brooks, and I think that I might have tapped out of the Muppets like in this moment for like 15 years. I don't think I especially came back until like the Muppet Show DVDs started coming out.
This is where you got off the Muppet bus.
I got off the Muppet bus when they were all singing in a church, and it was sort of like explicitly Christian flavored.
Sure.
Right.
Because that didn't ring true to me. The secular humanism is at the core of the Muppets to me.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, there were people who got off when Garth was playing Tevye, so a lot of people. This is a very religious episode. We all have our triggering moments. We all have the things that are, they may have lost MAGA America at that point where they were like, I won't take my Garth Brooks.
See, that's a shame because I think they would have liked the church stuff. I think that if they'd hung in.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I do feel like that is the aspect of this episode.
Oh, Garth flew away.
Now, guys, Ryan from Tough Pigs is pointing out they had done a nativity scene with John Denver.
That's right.
That's Christmas. That doesn't count.
I want to say too, it is
the most Christian thing that doesn't count.
The aspect of this episode that is aged the worst for me, that seems the most culturally insensitive, is you do have Garth Brooks, a goy trying to steal one of our roles. The Tevye thing rubs me the wrong way because I'm like, back off, man. You know, if you're going to end the episode in a church pushing your shit on me, you don't also get to take one of the only roles in musical theater that WATTO could potentially play. Pick a lane, Garth.
Now, just to tie off, I'll give you a little bit of spoiler, Daniel. My pitch for the Statler and Waldorf live-action prequel series, which would be, I think, the first time that anyone has taken Muppets from puppet to fully live action.
Yeah, when you say live action, you mean that they'll be played by young men.
I mean, ideally, I think they're age-wise, they may be wrong for it now, but ideally you'd go the way that X-Men First Class did it, where you'd get
McAvoy and McAvoy. I like the idea of just getting the two of them. Let's get Fassbender and McAvoy.
And the final scene of the series, they have reconciled because their friendship is rocky throughout. It may even be that Statler and Waldorf, one of them sells out the other. I think there's a lot of betrayal. This is a friendship that is not run smoothly. So you have a lot of drama over however many seasons. And then the final episode, they make up as friends and they're walking past a theater and a Muppet is out flyering for a comedy show starring Juliet Prowse, guest starring Juliet Prowse. And they go in to watch the first episode of the Muppet Show and they hate it.
and they never leave.
And they do the Saving Private Ryan face dissolve where they become the puppets.
They become puppets, yes.
Statler and Waldorf, as we know.
The other thing is, it's interesting because obviously ABC would try years later to do a sort of a mockumentary behind the scenes on a talk show route. One idea that I think that we've talked about off camera when we were talking about where a Muppets show could go in the current day, and maybe the pandemic makes this impossible, but one of the ideas we had talked about off camera was the idea that the Muppets could start an improv theater and school. And so it would basically be like MCB. It would be like the Muppet Citizens Brigade Theater. And
I mean, absolutely the kind of foolhardy, wrong-headed sort of
disastrous
business decision that the Muppets would make.
The
backstabbing.
Ozzy Bear teaching improv 101 classes.
Yes.
And you'd also have guest stars coming in and do monologues in an ASCAT style show.
Yeah.
You'd also have the classes. You'd also have all the various things that can go wrong.
George. I love this idea. And I think it could incorporate a lot of the actual improvising that happens on Muppet sets.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And the show itself would have improvised moments in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, but not hire anyone who is a professional improviser, because that would go against the spirit of improv if you start paying people to do it.
Right. That breaks the whole machine.
Right. You need to hire actors to pretend that they're improvising.
Right.
Daniel, thank you for coming on. You're the best.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. Good luck, everybody.
Hey, you got to come back for Life Day. I'm saying it now.
I'll do it. I'll come back for Life Day. I'll get on a plane if I have to.
Great. We love it.
Bye, George. Bye, Watto. Bye, Patrick.
Everybody.
Hi, Daniel.
Oh no, I brought in a guest really quick. Oh no, I hope
Do it. Bring it back.
I hope nobody saw. All right, let me introduce him. Guys, our next guest, a cool dude. A dude I like a lot.
A rad dude.
A rad dude. He's the president of the Jim Henson legacy, and he's a longtime Muppet writer, Muppet everything. He's touched everything. He's the best. Let's bring him in, Mr. Craig Shemin.
Craig!
Hello.
There he is.
Oh.
How are you, Craig?
Hello. Oh, I'm well. I'm very excited because the last time.
No, what you were going to say? Sorry, what were you saying, Craig?
No, I was just going to say I'm excited that I'm here with WATTO because when I was on the live show in the theater, back when there was a theater, and back when people went to the theater, WATTO was away. I didn't get to meet WATTO.
I think maybe WATTO had herniated 2 discs in his back when you did the show. It was maybe during WATTO's Chevy Chase period.
Yes.
Of back injuries, sidetracking his comedy career. Craig, I want to apologize in advance for Patrick's completely inappropriate intro. Patrick, you cannot say he touched everything in the year 2020. Intention aside, I understand what you were trying to say, but without the context, that's brutal.
Oh boy, Craig, let's all start this episode so we can talk about it a little bit, just to move away from my inappropriate intro.
Very inappropriate.
All right, here we go. So we're gonna press play in 1, 2, 3.
I'm just looking out for Craig. I don't want the woke mob to come after him. You're the one.
Appreciate it. So, Craig, what were you working on at this point? What was your title in 96, 97?
I think this may have been while we were doing Wobulous World.
Mm-hmm.
Wobble in a bubble.
Yeah.
I think they called me creative director.
Okay.
And by the way, I apologize because I'm on a hot spot because my internet went out like 10 minutes right before the show.
Oh no.
Oh no.
That's okay. We're here. We're all doing great.
So, Craig, you were working primarily on Wobulous World. Did you have much involvement in this, or were you mostly able to watch the show as a fan while working at a different side of the company?
I mostly watched it as a fan, but then I got involved when it was being publicized, when the characters would go on TV or stuff, or when, Clifford went on VH1 to do cross promotion, I would end up writing some of that stuff. So anything that was sort of originating out of New York, I would get dragged into doing.
Mm-hmm. What is that like? I know we've talked about this before, but what is it like to write or to prep a talk show appearance for a Muppet? Because I feel like that's something you do a lot, or you've done a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, you're doing the equivalent of a pre-interview, which, you would be talking, instead of the human guest talking to the producer, it would be me talking to the producer. I would then interface performers. We'd write up some things, because when Muppets are on talk shows, there's sort of a higher expectation of entertainment than when humans are on talk shows. So we try and do more of a production. It might be doing a pre-tape, or we might be doing something. But the performers, it's about riding the line between prepared material and improvisation, because the performers want to be able to just come up with stuff. So we just try and come up with a motivation or a routine.
Yeah.
And, when if I would be doing a thing with Frank Oz from Miss Piggy, we would come up with an attitude for Miss Piggy, and then I'd give him like a script of jokes, and he would go through that and sort of jot down punchlines on an index card, because he would want to go into it with like a little index card that he would tape to his knee.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the thing. It's like just, giving them ammunition, not necessarily a word for word situation.
Craig, I'm curious. I don't want you to throw shade at anyone, so I'm going to ask the positive version of this question. Which hosts do you feel worked the best and were most positive about working with the Muppets? You don't have to say who is tricky, but I'm curious because I imagine there's a real spectrum of which hosts enjoy doing.
Most of them, most of them enjoyed it. I'll be honest that usually if a host didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't get to be on the show. You know, there would be hosts that's like, I don't want to work with puppets. We never got that far. So Jon Stewart was really good. Martha Stewart was very good natured, because I came up with lines for Miss Piggy that anybody watching would want to be coming up with, and Martha just sort of giggled, and sometimes she got it and sometimes she didn't. I think one of the interesting things is that when we did Rosie O'Donnell, it was a situation where the staff was challenging to deal with, because I think Rosie may have been challenging to deal with the staff.
Sure.
So it was like Rosie was fine with the Muppets, but the staff was sort of this buffer between, you know, and it was a challenging thing to deal with, because Rosie didn't go to the rehearsals, but she would watch the rehearsals from makeup. So the staff was operating like they felt like they were being watched, and at any minute their job could be disappearing.
Craig, I cannot even imagine what you're describing. A former stand-up comedian superstar of the 80s, who then became a movie star and then pivoted to a daytime talk show, who created a hostile work environment that seeded paranoia throughout her entire staff.
Crazy.
I mean, what a bizarre time capsule. That would never happen today.
Craig, I can't even understand the thing that you're talking about. A former giant filmmaker of the 70s and 80s, who then pivoted to comedy and then pivoted to being a talk show host, who seeded paranoia throughout his entire staff. I can't even imagine what that thing is like.
No.
Now, Craig, we just watched a kind of a rarity. Rob Reiner was turned into a Muppet. We saw a Muppet version of Rob Reiner, which is now canon. That's Rob Reiner in the Muppet verse is a Muppet, and what we're seeing now is a recreation of the iconic Katz's Deli scene, in which it is. I think this is a great example of what the Muppets are great at, which is you would not think that you would be able to take that scene and make an all ages appropriate version of it, and yet they have done it by making it about sneezing. I think it's really excellent work here. This is really something that is Muppets at the top of their game.
This is the other thing I think works well here, is if you
I
are
think this segment really did well.
Yeah, no, if you're a child and you've never seen When Harry Met Sally, this still works on its own. Like, the premise is funny to a kid taking the sneeze, even if you don't understand what it's parodying.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not seeing the Rob Reiner Muppet here in the Muppet Character Encyclopedia.
Okay.
Craig,
where is he?
You wouldn't see that.
No.
Well,
was that a tough edit?
Disney,
we need to keep this book down to a certain page. Cut the Reiner puppet.
If only it were. If only it were. There was an actual fundamental decision at the top levels of the world and the Disney organization that we could not have any Muppets in that book that were based on real people.
Wow.
Because they didn't want to get in the situation of having to get life rights approvals and things. So even there were Muppets based on Jim Henson, Frank Oz, and Jerry Nelson, we weren't allowed to put in.
Wow. There's that thing. I feel like people, I was going to say forget this, but many people are not as nerdy as the four of us. So most people don't know this in the first place. But the first season of The Muppet Show, for at least the first handful of episodes, every episode would end with a segment where Kerman would bring out a Muppet version of the special guest star. And he would go like, here's sort of our parting gift. It's a Muppet version of you.
A couple of times.
Yeah. So there are a fair number of that.
They ran out of money.
Is that really why it stopped?
Well, no, it became a very, it's a lot of work. That originally they just planned to do it. They were going to just make the puppet, do it as a presentation on the show, and then keep the Muppet and recycle it. But the first couple of people who got it, they thought they were getting it for real. And, they were. So they sort of like, you can't take it away.
Yeah.
So after a couple of puppets left the building, they realized they would go broke if they had to make a puppet for everybody.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I should say we are currently at $787.61. Reminder to everyone, we're raising money for Fair Fight, which is a great organization dealing with election security and getting out the vote and all that stuff. If you want to donate, bit.ly/GLTS gives. It's up in the corner. I also want to show this piece of fan art that we just got. Here we go. It's from Goop Goop. Very
Oh,
good.
wow.
Uh-oh.
Oh, what?
Uh-oh, what am I seeing?
Puppet
Oh,
Craig!
But everybody else was.
Puppet Craig!
This is great. Oh,
Unfortunately, it was built before I grew the beard.
sure.
So this
Wow.
was my wife gave this to me for my birthday quite a while ago. Rick Lyon from Avenue Q built it.
Yeah,
The great Rick Line, a legend.
that's amazing.
I mean, it's just some
legend.
rip up some cotton balls, and you're there. It's an easy fix.
Yeah.
You really captured your eyes, I have to say.
Now,
There's a real gentleness.
Craig, you wanted to come on this episode because one of the guests, I don't think he's shown up yet, is Larry King, and you said you wanted to talk about Larry King a little bit.
Larry King, yeah. I mean, we did several appearances on the Larry King show, and Kermit actually guest hosted Larry King. So we spent several days down in DC prepping that and doing that. But when we went down, I think we were going down to do a Christmas appearance on Larry King Live with Kermit and a couple other guys. And I was working on the material. So we went back. I was taken back to see Larry while he was in makeup to run everything by him and get everything, make sure he was okay with it. And he's sitting in makeup. And I always remember he's just sort of sitting there, and the makeup person is doing his makeup like they had done for dozens, and if not thousands of times, and noticed there was some sort of mole on his face that hadn't been there before, and was very concerned, and I was pointing out, what's that? And Larry is leaning into the mirror, and he's just, it's a half a cough drop. And he just ripped it off and threw it away.
Half a cough drop?
I don't know.
I don't know why it.
Yeah, I don't know how
being
long he was
half is
walking
so
around
much
with a
more
half a
upsetting.
cough drop.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that it's hard to know. Well, first of all, that's different than a cough drop that you've been sucking on for a while that has been reduced down in size. A half a cough drop implies a direct measurement. That's a very mysterious occurrence.
I have to say, Larry is on screen right now. The man really does have the proportions of a Muppet. If you look at the relationship between the size and shape of his head, and then the emphasis on the upper body over the lower, right? The where the waistline is, the length of the arms relative to the chest.
Craig,
He's ideal.
Is there anyone that you think the Muppets should work with or should have worked with that they never did?
Wait, say that again, Patrick. You cut out.
I did. Are there any celebrities that you think the Muppets should work with or should have worked with that they haven't for some reason?
You're asking if there's someone that the Muppets worked with?
Yeah.
Hypothetically, who they should work with.
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel. What was I? I mean, Goodman. John Goodman is great in his episode, and I was like, he should be.
There were a couple of, there were a couple of people that were supposed to do the Muppet Show that never did, and that would have been really cool to see.
Who's on that list?
I want to say.
I didn't get that.
Who was on that list?
I think Audrey Hepburn was going to be.
Wow. I'd heard Richard Pryor. I think Robin Williams I'd seen on the list.
Yeah, Audrey Hepburn was supposed to do it. Richard Pryor was supposed to be there and couldn't make it.
Wow.
I think Richard Burton was actually supposed to do it.
Wow. That's wild. I mean, it's so funny with that show, how in the beginning they were basically begging people to come on. And then you're like, yeah, Audrey Hepburn was going to come on. It's just such a like funny dichotomy between the two. I do want to say we did just pass $1,000. We're at $1,055 and 61 cents. So let's keep those donations coming, guys.
We have a City Slickers parody happening on screen.
We have to add more stretch goals,
which is a little, you know, it's sort of like an expanded sketch of what Bob Hope did on the Muppet Show. Same thing.
Yeah. I want to say I think the sketch is a better follow-up to City Slickers than The Legend of Curly's Gold.
Yes.
Like I would watch the first movie and go right to this sketch.
Yeah. I mean, if they'd made City Slickers 2 and Daniel Stern and Bruno or Lovitz were not in it, and it was just Billy, Kermit, and Fozzie, not a bad movie.
Not the bad one. I got to say, Billy's looking good here. This was a good look for Billy. This length of beard.
Yeah, this is prime. This is prime Billy, prime Crystal.
Craig, did you have that shirt that the puppet had on, or is it just an approximation of a Craig-esque shirt? This is fun.
Did you get that question, Craig?
Say that again, Patrick.
Did you have the shirt that your puppet is wearing, or was it is it an approximation of a Craig shirt?
I have something. It's an approximation. If I knew that I was going to bring the puppet out, I would have worn my approximation of it. Rick selected it based on whatever, you know, I think Stephanie had sent him a photo and he got the closest
sure
back to the shirt that I was wearing in the photo.
It's a classic earmark of the George Lucas talk show. We never give our guests enough information to be able to prepare properly.
Craig, can you tell them about the book that you're working on right now? You don't have to give a lot of info, but I think they'd like to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, the upcoming book that I'm doing is about Jim Henson's first TV show, Sam and Friends, which he did while he was in college. Not unlike the renowned Mr. Lucas's THX 1138.
Formative work.
So Sam and Friends ran on local television. So only about a dozen kinescopes survived, but we found in the Henson archive there are about 400 audio tapes of shows. So
podcast.
I've been going through those and going through the scripts. Yep.
Wow.
And
Craig,
so we'll be able to, there'll be an episode guide. There'll be a story about how the show came to be.
Wow. So exciting, Craig.
Craig, is there any chance of those?
I'm sorry.
Oh no! Is there any chance of that audio being released? As George said, it would be great to release that as a podcast or something. All the episodes.
I'm hoping that we'll be able to make some of it public. It's a complicated situation because since Sam and Friends contains Kermit, Disney has some level of they don't own Sam and Friends, but it's a frozen property. So what can be done with it is very
And how many episodes did you
very
say that they
challenging.
have
So,
audio? How many?
I'm hoping that we can make some of it.
And how many episodes of audio did you say
There are
there were?
about 400.
400. They can't put that many episodes on the shelf.
Yeah, about 400 or so exist.
Oh.
How many episodes? Yeah.
No shelf can
When
handle
Disney
that.
Plus morphs into an all audio streaming service, then maybe we can work something out.
Yeah, really good. That's truly, I'm going to mute George just because his deflating is very loud. That's truly so many episodes, like 400. You can, because it was a nightly show for a long time, so like it makes sense that there were that many, but it's so many. It's such a shame that so many are lost too. Now I think this is Johnny Fiamma's first appearance on the show, I want to say. And Craig, I am a big Johnny Fiamma. As the kids say.
Yeah, I'm not sure because the episodes were shot in a very different order from the airing.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a few things that like a character will be introduced in a later episode, even though you've already seen them in a bunch of episodes before.
Craig,
Smokey the Butthead.
I'm curious, Craig. Did the airing order of the episodes change because ABC wanted to prioritize certain celebrities, or how did they decide which episodes aired when? Do you know?
I'm not sure exactly why they made those decisions. I think a lot of it had to do with who the network thought that they could get more promotional mileage out of.
Sure.
So they may have been juggling it based on that. Also may have had to do with when the shows were being completed. But, this was on ABC. So I think they had a lot of input as to the air order.
Yeah. Now we are getting some more.
I do remember that when Muppets Tonight was first started development, it was when they were first starting to be developed, ABC had not been bought by Disney yet, and Henson had just gotten out of this big lawsuit with Disney. And they were like, well, we'll make a deal with ABC for new shows. And they made this big deal with ABC. And like, we're finally away from Disney. We'll make this deal with ABC and we're celebrating. And then like very shortly after that, they announced that ABC was being bought by Disney. And it was a very unique situation.
You can't outrun the mouse. They bought Patrick. They bought George. They own me. All three of us.
They own us.
They don't own Craig. They don't own Craig.
No, they don't own
Craig.
I don't think they own me, but they own my babies.
Yeah.
My detours.
They just met me from time to time.
Yeah, exactly. Craig, is there a character from Muppets Tonight?
I am a shareholder, so I own them.
Okay.
Oh.
Craig, is there a character from this show that you wish had continued on to do more stuff? Because I feel like there's a lot of characters that are introduced that don't necessarily continue on into other projects, and I think that's a shame.
Yeah, there are a bunch of characters that I would love to see pop up in small doses. I don't know how much of seen on a regular basis, but he's sort of a fun kick. And I do miss seeing Johnny Fiamma and Sal. But I mean, it's sort of, the characters, it's kind of like a Muppet Darwinism.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about
There's a survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
It also feels to me a little bit like watching different seasons of Saturday Night Live, in the sense that like there's some people who are forever associated, and some people who are just on it for a few seasons, and you might have some memorable sketches. It almost feels like there's a world in which the Muppets were doing shows this whole time, and this is the cast we're seeing for the mid-90s era.
I'm sorry. I have to interrupt. I can finally breathe again. I've been so nervous this entire episode.
Right.
But Billy is finally appropriating jazz music. So now I can relax.
He also referenced E.T. by my buddy Steve.
Yeah.
Craig, this is a campaign I want to start over the course of this marathon we have going here. As you said, it's Muppet Darwinism. I think it's very unfair what happened to Seymour. Because Pepe just leaves Seymour behind, never even mentions him again. Pepe sort of becomes Ryan Seacrest, and Seymour becomes Brian Dunkelman. I think we got to bring Seymour back, at least for a retrospective. At least let him tell his story.
Yeah.
Well, I do wonder, because if you do a Google image search, if you search for GIFs of Muppets Tonight, one of the most prominent ones that shows up is a Seymour one.
Oh, interesting.
And it's the one. It's this one.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Seymour pushy.
More butts.
Yeah.
Seymour butts.
He is maybe too provocative to survive in that ecosystem.
That's interesting.
That was
That's a provocative GIF.
I got the big behind. He would already sing that when they would do their little song. And I got the big behind.
What a guy. Craig, do you have any final parting thoughts on Muppets Tonight? What would you like to say to the audience? A favorite episode, a favorite thought about it?
Well, I mean, I have a bunch of favorite episodes. I mean, one of the nice things about it is, while Muppet Show really didn't do a lot of about popular culture and what was happening in the news, Muppets Tonight sort of embraced it. So there were a lot of things that could be done on Muppets Tonight that couldn't be done on the Muppet Show, like Christopher Darden thing with Arsenio Hall's body, and you know, and just some of the images, like putting Don Rickles in the Kermit the Frog suit.
Yeah,
a wonderful thing.
But
I think one of the fundamental problems of the show is that you know, I really loved you know, what Clifford used to be. And you know, you know, he was this really cool guy who had sunglasses and you never saw under them, and he just said a few little words at a time, and he was really cool. And to sort of make him the host of Muppets Tonight, they had to take away the things that made him cool. They made him talk a lot, and they gave him eyes. And you know, I think one of the problems is that they were very sensitive about maybe not putting Kermit at the forefront, because they had lost Jim not too long ago, and Steve was relatively new to doing Kermit. So they're like, well, let's put a different host at the front of the show. And I think if they had just kept Kermit as the host, and I think it may have worked well. They could have still had Clifford involved, but they sort of took away all the cool aspects of his personality to make him a host.
Sure.
Right. Well, that's sort of like with that's in a way, you know, characters have an arc. You know, when Jar Jar became a senator, he was no longer as fun, but he was more important to the plot.
It's a great point, George.
Do you think that?
That is true.
Do you think that we're going to? Do you think that Muppets Tonight will eventually land on Disney Plus, or do you think that it's going to forever be this kind of archival, underground thing for Muppet fans to seek out and find, however, by whatever means necessary?
I like to think that it will end up on Disney Plus. I think it's all a matter of. I think it's all a matter of the lawyers going through and redoing contracts and licensing music and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's think it's too strong and not be utilized.
Yeah.
Great.
It's too funny. It's really it's amazing to watch it now because I think the comedy on this show is held up really well. Which that's not a surprise with the original Muppet Show, but there was a part of me in revisiting this that wondered whether or not it may be in some ways because I remember it being very of its moment. I was wondering how much of it would hold up, but the jokes still land really well, which is impressive.
Craig, thank you so much for coming on. You're the best.
Thank you, Craig.
One of the things, it's my pleasure. I'm here anytime, and so is he.
Yeah.
And next time, hopefully, my internet connection will be better, and I don't have to be operating to a hotspot.
We will figure it out for the next one. All right. Have a good one.
George, great to see you. Watto.
Great to see you, Craig.
Great to see you, Craig.
Guys, we're gonna start the John Goodman episode, but I have a guest.
What? What?
Guys, our next guest, he was a writer and he was a producer on Muppets Tonight. He also worked on Futurama. He worked on The Critic. He worked on The Simpsons. He worked for Johnny Carson. Please welcome Patrick Verone.
Patrick.
Whoa.
Hi.
How are you?
The two Patricks distinctly.
Yes, we're very different.
The only difference I can say is that I don't have a K at the end of my name. So if you pronounce it that way, there'll be no confusion.
You guys can call me Patrick K while Patrick is on. I think that's fine.
But also, Patrick V, we're not going to get the two of you confused because you seem like a reliable, trustworthy, competent worker.
Yeah.
You've only known me for a few minutes.
It's true.
Well, there's
we'll start this episode and then we can start chatting about the show and everything. All right, so we're gonna press play in 1, 2, 3.
all right.
So Patrick, how did you get involved in this show? What is your Muppets Tonight origin story?
All right. So I had mostly been a writer in late night in the early part of my career. I started working in the mid '80s. I was on the Late Show with Joan Rivers, the very first show ever on Fox.
Yeah.
I was at the Tonight Show when Johnny Carson was there. I had this, I guess, basically a reputation for being a comedy variety monologue style writer. But the show immediately before I got this job was an animated show called The Critic, which maybe it seems like you're aware of it. You may want to do a marathon of that at some point.
Would love it.
I would love
episodes of that too.
Yeah.
Love that.
And so when ABC announced that they were going to do a show that was basically the Muppet Show with pop culture, or with, in a late night format with a topical edge, I was one of the writers that I think they came to, mostly because I had already been by being on The Critic, I had been on a show that had failed on ABC. So they knew that I could do that and then go to another network. But also I had, I don't have credit for this, but I worked with Gary Shandling at the Tonight Show. And he had the Larry Sanders Show that was on the air at the time. And he was also, this is too much information, he was also represented by Bernie Brillstein, who represented the Muppets. And it's a small world of people who, that's how I got the job. And I was hired by Dick Blasucci, who was the head writer of the show, who was the legendary head writer of SCTV, and went on to be the head writer of Mad TV. So it was a good fit at the time.
What do you remember from the show? What are your highlight memories of working on it?
All right, we're gonna quickly get into some props.
Yeah.
Great. because I went into the garage this morning and said, and I found the banker's box filled with what I was hoping was going to be my Muppets Tonight paraphernalia that I could show you guys, and we could talk about something other than Andy and Randy. But it turns out all that's in this box, and it is a full, very heavy box.
Yeah.
My first bit that I'll show you is the box that says Muppets Tonight on it.
Oh, wow.
All that's in there. Yeah, all that's in there are scripts.
Great.
Now, as it happens, the script for the John Goodman episode, which we're watching now, it's not mine. It apparently I swiped Mavis Davis's.
Oh, interesting.
So it doesn't. Unfortunately, if you care about how the process worked, we would do a first draft, and I think there were 8 or 9 writers on the staff, and we mostly worked. It was a real hybrid of the half-hour writer sitcom style of everybody working in a room together, and the sketch comedy style of everybody writing in individual rooms, not together. And we kind of did a hybrid of that because that's what Dick wanted to do. And so we would submit completed sketches, but then in the room we would rewrite them together. So the script that I should have, but apparently I lost or gave away or auctioned off, would have had my notes as to what worked at the table read. And the way we did the show was we would have the script at the beginning of the week, do the table read without the guest star. The guest star would come in for one day of the 5-day shoot. The guest star would only come in once. So we do the table read without the guest star for the most part. I think there were a couple of guest stars like Martin Short. We couldn't get rid of him. So he was there, I think, every day and stayed on to the weekend and then worked the catering truck the next week. But it was mostly that the guest star would be there only for the guest star day. So this script does not have my annotations as to what we changed. So I'm going to switch over and take a look at. So we're watching the Tales from the Vet, which, all right, there's something you guys referred to early on that I want to point out, which is the topical humor. Do you get the joke of Phil Van Neuter?
I mean,
you don't, or do you?
I mean, what is it? I get neuter. I don't know if that's the
right. You get the neuter part, but it's a triple entendre because the lead detective in the OJ case was Phil Van Natter. You don't remember that because the man died 8 years ago, and I would say it was a local LA joke, except of course it was the OJ case. So at some point, where'd I go? At some point, everybody was aware of Phil Van Natter. Anyway, so this is Phil Van Neuter.
It is an interesting thing, Patrick. I feel like there is 4 straight years of American television comedy that is 20% O.J. Simpson trial jokes. Like, you watch any show from roughly like 94 to 2000, and there's a percentage of OJ jokes, whether it was animated, live action, fiction, variety.
Yeah. This makes me wonder how many OJ jokes we have missed so far.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Not many more. It was not a prime target for our demographic, at least what we thought that the audience was mostly going to be. And I always refer to this when I talk about this show, when I talk about the other things I've worked on like Futurama and The Critic, where 99% of what we do to make ourselves laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other, maybe we'll try to appeal to that audience out there that could get us ratings, which we didn't particularly care about at the time. And good news, it didn't matter because we didn't get the ratings. But I remember growing up watching Bugs Bunny cartoons, from the 1940s that had Wendell Willkie jokes in them.
Yeah.
Which made as much sense to me then as they probably do to anybody now.
Yeah.
But so we would make jokes that whether we cared about it or not, whether anybody got it or not, didn't exactly matter.
I have a question. While you're being so open about process, you've written for animation, for puppets, and like sort of live action human talk shows. The Triple Crown. You've done late night shows, host driven. You've done puppet variety. You're on the new Spitting Image show as well, right?
That's correct. Yes, I am.
And you've written for many animated shows. Are there fundamental differences between the three for you, or do you just try to write what's funny?
Well, no, there's one key fundamental difference between something like The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson or even Spitting Image and something like Futurama or Disenchantment, which is the Netflix animated show I'm also on now. The fundamental difference being that when you're working for a show like The Tonight Show, what you type that morning goes out into the real world that night. Or with Spitting Image, we're writing, today for a show that's going to drop in Britain next Friday. Sure. So there has to be a topicality, and there's a very small window of recognition. But with Futurama or The Simpsons, I mean, all of that stuff, what they're writing on The Simpsons right now is not going to air until a year from now. What we were last doing on Disenchantment back in March is not going to drop on Netflix until probably November of 2022. So you have to. It's a difference between topicality and sort of evergreen humor. It's one of the reasons I think that a lot of modern animation, modern being the last 30 years, starting with The Simpsons, has to be evergreen. It can't be absolutely topical because it just won't make sense when it airs. And for that reason, then when it airs 20 years later, it's still pretty fresh.
Sure.
And so with that's the fun. But otherwise, I mean, writing it's a category of comedy variety that both Joan Rivers, Johnny Carson, Gary Shandling, and the non-human puppets that I've worked for have all sort of shared, which is you just have to get that voice. You just have to get that particular person's idiom. And once it's all the same.
Yeah.
This show we've been talking about has such an interesting balance of the legacy Muppets that everyone knows really well, and a lot of characters who are either newer or appearing for the first time ever on this show. Are there characters that you immediately felt like you took to, you got their voice, and are there characters that you felt like you struggled to figure out how to write for them immediately?
Without offending anyone, because I'll give you sort of since I'm the first one really from behind the scenes of the show to talk about this, I'll say that there was an interesting dynamic on this show, which is that it was as a Muppet commodity, it was really the first one that was done without Jim Henson, because he had passed a few years earlier, and and Brian and Lisa and all the kids had taken over the company, but they hadn't produced. I think one of the movies was about to come out when we went into production. Treasure
Island would have just been about to come out.
Yeah, but ours was the test case of how do you do a Muppet show without Jim Henson? Yeah, and so there was. And primarily, and I don't know if you've got Steve Whitmire involved in the marathon, but I mean, Steve he was famous for saying at the time when he was picked to be the voice of Kermit, it was a challenge, and he said he literally, as I recall, he said when he first opened the box or the case or whatever they put Kermit in, it smelled like Jim. Yeah, and it was a really moving, I'm sure he meant that in a pleasant way. Not that
the guy had BO. Yes,
not that the guy had been passed away several years ago. But my point is that he said to take over the character of Kermit was a real challenge. And to take over the Muppet Show as a show was also a challenge for us as the writers. The puppeteers, for the most part, were the same men, and I think they were all men except for Leslie Carrera, who was brought in new. Everybody was an original, and so they all knew Jim. They'd all worked with Jim for decades, and so we really had to blend how to do this show. You know, Kermit didn't die. Kermit was still an essential part of this property, but we had to do it without the centerpiece that he was of the original show, which is why Clifford and Kevin Clash became a fundamental and at the time relatively provocative aspect of the show. Yeah, and then we also had to deal with the fact that Frank Oz, who did second to Jim, the most important of the characters, including Piggy and Fozzie, was a big shot movie director at the time. Right. And so he was only available. We were told this up front. He was only available a couple of weeks and spotty days, throughout the production run. And as I said, I've been used to, between The Simpsons and The Critic, anytime you didn't have the actor, if we didn't have John Lovitz because he was off shooting a movie, Maurice LaMarche, the fabulous voiceover talent, would just do the voice as a temp. Sure. And so we all thought, the writers for the most part all thought, okay, we'll write the sketches with Piggy, with Fozzie, and just have somebody else puppeteer it, and then Frank will come in and dub it. Yeah. Nope. that was not how it worked. And so we were then told, okay, there's going to be very limited Kermit, very limited Piggy and Fozzie and Sam Eagle and all. Yeah. So literal process of elimination. Sure. We had to create new characters. Yeah. And we had to create new characters based on the phenomenal Bill Barretta, who I believe you will be talking to shortly.
Hey, no spoilers. No spoilers. I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm breaking up, or you're breaking up.
Oh, you're back. You're back. So
okay. Anyway, so anything I felt like at the time, anything Bill touched was gold. So Bobo, the bear, who the writers adored, and another prop is that I don't have a Bobo, but I have a giant bear.
Okay.
This is the closest I have to a Bobo, but we love Bobo. And then Seymour and Pepe was another case where you've got because Bill and Brian Henson are close and were close at the time. They kind of teamed up, and so you would have Seymour, which was Brian, and Pepe, who was Bill, but Brian also wore many hats. And not only was he the executive producer, but he directed episodes. So it became difficult to have Seymour and Pepe. And you were asking earlier about why Seymour kind of evaporated. I think it was because that was the Brian half of the Brian Bill.
Yeah. I was ready to spend the next 9 hours investigating what happened to Seymour, but that's a perfect answer. It makes perfect sense. Pepe was less tied down. He was more available. Yeah.
Yes, he was much more available, and so Pepe has reoccurred many times. It was also a much easier puppet to manipulate than the giant elephant.
Yeah,
you're making me realize, Patrick, just in you talking about. I mean, you're giving us so much good information here, but everything that had been done between Jim's passing and this point in time was essentially Muppets playing other characters. It was things like Christmas Carol and Treasure Island. Some of the direct-to-video and TV specials and things were often Muppets playing other roles based on pre-existing material. You folks were the first room to have to kind of write wholly new Muppet material and also write wholly new Muppet characters. How much of that was a sense of freedom versus a sense of intimidation about living up to the legacy?
Yeah, I mean, it was equal parts because we also had, the freedom that you were dealing with in the 1970s doing the kind of show that they were doing for syndication was in Europe or in Britain where they did that show was actually much freer than working for ABC for something that was going to be initially for the TGIF lineup.
Yeah.
So it had to be, and the brand, the ABC Disney brand was quickly becoming, Monday Night Football and family entertainment on Fridays. And you were also referring to the Dana Carvey show, which was a complete, I mean, we watched that documentary. It's just this show and that show did not blend. There was no, and so I think we had to do, I remember like we did a parody of NYPD Blue, which was, the part of ABC that was late night and edgy and pushing the envelope. And we called it NYPD Green because that's an easy one. You just put Kermit in a trench coat. And yet the jokes we put into that sketch, because the thing about NYPD Blue was that they used curse words. Right. They used words that were not allowed.
They'd show bottoms.
You see bottom, you see a little bit of tush.
Exactly. And so when we tried to use the word scumball, because we thought, okay, that's a word that actually we would create a scumball or a dirt. I think it ended up turning into dirt ball or dirt bag or something. Whatever you watch it when you'll see it. But we faced a lot of challenges of trying to do stuff that in the Matt Groening or in the adult animated world, Fox. The first time I got a note on the critic from Fox that was, standards and practices says you can only show, if you're mooning, you can only show one cheek at a time.
Right.
Okay. I said, wait a minute. There's standards and practices at Fox, but there also was at ABC, and they were much more critical, and they were almost more protective of the brand, the Muppets brand, than the Henson family were, because for a number of reasons. But there were a lot of challenges.
That's another fascinating thing to think about. Is the Muppet Show was independently financed for syndication. That is, 5 seasons of a TV show that was free of network notes because they were not beholden to any one network. And then here you come into, not only are you a network primetime show for a specific place, but also recently acquired network by the most brand conscious entertainment company in the world, trying to figure out the right way to reposition a very valuable property.
It was a real perfect storm of limitations.
Do you remember? Did you have to fight for this moment?
I looked at that earlier. I don't remember when that moment came up. Probably
that must have been a conversation, right?
Yeah.
That might have also happened beyond my pay grade, because the writers were dealing with the words. Once we handed it off to the designers and the creature shop and the puppeteers, they brought it to life in a way that was beyond. I'm sure we wrote that joke because it was whatever. I forget who. I want to say like Ryan O'Neal. Did he do a movie called So Fine where that was the? Am I misremembering? Somebody quick check IMDb to see what that's a reference to.
Ryan O'Neal, So Fine. I'm looking at the poster. It has almost that exact same outfit with the exposed.
That's what it is, right?
Patrick, let's bring that poster up, Patrick.
Bring it up, Patrick. Yes.
Okay, but now look at the year of that movie, and you'll see how
1981.
See how topical we were.
Very topical. Within two
decades. The iron is.
I mean, there you go, right there.
A revealing comedy.
Now, when in the previous episode we were talking about the When Harry Met Sally spoof, which that's another very delicately threading the needle in that as the scene is unfolding, you can feel yourself thinking, they're doing When Harry Met Sally. They're in a restaurant. Is this going to be the Katz's Deli scene? Surely it can't be. And then the way that the workaround for that is that perfect example of this is adult content, but it is also all ages appropriate because the kids won't get it. And if they do, it means they're already sophisticated enough to get the joke anyway.
Yeah, that absolutely correct analysis. The one piece of information I can give you may be completely wrong, but I believe Billy Crystal pitched that sketch. Wow. I think he came on and said, I would like to do a sketch parodying Harry Met Sally with Peggy, where instead of an orgasm, she fakes a sneeze.
Great.
He loves towing that line, Billy. He loves towing that line.
Right. I mean, because that's his métier. So that was, and the only thing it's possible it was tweaked by Paul Flaherty, who the other great classic comedy variety writer on the show.
Because if you think about that scene, at first you think like, oh no, they can't be doing this, but you realize no child watching that would have questions at the end of it. It's all right.
Yeah, it is essential Wendell Willkie comedy.
Yes.
Patrick, when you think back on this show, what do you think what is the thing that you're the proudest of that either you got on or that you helped, make happen? Is there something that you think about?
Because so much of what I was trying to do was impress Dick and Paul, who had done all these amazing sketches for SCTV that I thought of as being these what we now call mashups. Yeah. But I would say the two that I'm proudest of are EIEIOR.
Great. Great one.
The hospital one that was a parody of ER. Yeah. And NYPD Green. Yeah. Because it was just all we had to do was come up with the title, and the sketch kind of wrote itself. Yeah. Which is really the essence of how we thought about, because fundamentally, I mean, since I got this show assuming that I wasn't going to get hired on the Larry Sanders show, I said, okay, I'm just going to write Larry Sanders style jokes for, felt. And that was, and anything we did, that sequence that you've watched already with Larry King, I think I wrote the lion's share of, which again, you just have to think of the premise, which is Larry King comes in and claims that there are 187 or however many countries in the world that his show airs in. Yeah. And I said, there aren't that many countries in the world. And so we just have Bobo list them.
Yeah. Now, Andy and Randy, they visited the real Roseanne set for the end of that episode. Yes?
That is correct. Yes.
I was just assuming that you didn't completely recreate the Roseanne set in perfect detail for a 2-minute bit.
No, and that's the key word that we've left out in our discussions of the ABC.
Andy and Randy. Those are the key words we're leaving out.
I know. Synergy, cross-pollination, symbiosis.
I know it. Yeah.
Right? So that's what they were going for. They were trying to promote Roseanne on this other show and kind of vice versa.
And it worked. Yeah. It worked. That show was a huge hit.
Still a huge hit.
Yeah, that really helped Roseanne, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, huge. Got the big Muppets Tonight box.
Goodman is, I think, one of the perfect Muppet host actors. You know what I mean? It seems like the second you see that host, it feels like he was born for this gig.
He's a combination of Gleason and Chris Farley, of course, at the time, Belushi, who he eventually replaces in the Blues Brothers. I mean, he was bigger than life, and was another one of these guys who I think he was only there for the one day, but that day went late because he
got a lot of stuff out of him. Yeah.
Are those his legs when he shoots up into the? If you only have one day, are those his legs when he shoots up?
I don't think so.
I was not on like his tootsies to me.
No, I doubt it.
But here, the question I have for you that I wasn't even thinking about until you brought up the thing about Bill pitching the sneeze sketch.
Yeah.
Do you have any other memories that you can share of special guest stars who came in wanting to do something specifically or saying they would not do something?
Here, and while you're thinking of this, you don't have to click the next episode, but let's us start it just so we can stay on.
Okay. Yeah, mine is already rolled over into it. So.
Oh, great. All right. So we will press play in 1, 2, 3. Okay.
And I'm not stepping on anybody else's guest appearance.
This one.
Oh,
very good. All right, let's keep talking.
Yeah.
Well, and this is too long a story, and maybe I'll make this a stretch goal that if you reach a certain amount, I'll tell you who our first guest was supposed to be.
Ooh.
Let's get the spreadsheet. Let's put it on there.
Hang on one sec. Hang on. Let me bring it up.
Yeah, but you're going to have to.
I like the way you're thinking.
Well,
we're at
we'll have you back.
2261.
There are so many reasons why I should tell this story.
2000.
That's a perfect story.
2000. Great.
2000. Okay.
Yeah, you got to 2000. We'll bring Patrick back later, and we'll hear this story.
or if we get to 2000 while he's still on the air. I mean, I want as much.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell.
You're a
I mean, the fact of the matter was the Garth Brooks. The reality was that Garth Brooks didn't want to do a country number, and so we wrote that. We based that around what he wanted to do, and with the professional comedians like Billy Crystal and Martin Short and Rick Moranis, they were involved pretty much from the start of breaking the story of what they wanted to do, what they wanted their wraparound storyline to be. Then there were obvious ones like Sandra Bullock, who, okay, we got to do a Speed parody. So we just concocted it, and she said, fine. And I'm trying to think of another example. Tony Bennett was another guy who just walked in and said, where do you want me to stand, guys? And he would do what a great sport he was.
Yeah.
But the difficult one, and who I can talk about because he has since passed on, was the artist then formerly known as Prince. Yeah. Who, if you look over my shoulder here, so I got each of the guests to sign this.
Wow.
And you see the biggest signature is Larry King, because he was the first. He was our first, as a cameo, but he was our first guest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Showed up and they had the thing ready. And he signs it like person signing it.
Fucking Larry.
Yeah. Larry King, like I'm the most important name on here. But then the next, this is the season 2 signature, which had a lot more names on it, because there were a lot more. We had that whole show that we called the Cameo Show. Yeah. But the signature that is missing is Prince, because when none of the writers was allowed into his dressing room. He was extremely limiting in terms of access to anyone on the staff. When we did, the head writer, Dick Blasucci, eventually went in and pitched him the storyline, which I believe he was okay with. And it's pretty thin, and and he had tweaks and he had changes. But then when I said to our line producer, Martin, I forget Martin's last name. I said to him, if I'd like to get this signed the way I have for everybody else. Yeah. And he said,
Martin Baker?
Martin Baker, yes. Beg his pardon. Martin Baker, dear man, lovely man, who I haven't seen in probably 25 years. But he went down to because he was one of the few allowed in. He went down there and came back and said, the artist, they had to call him the artist. The artist can't sign that because he doesn't have a name, therefore he doesn't have a signature. So through sheer serendipity, and I don't have it with me here, but through sheer serendipity, my wife had met him years before. So I actually have the word Prince written by him and that logo that he eventually used. And then I also have this, which is what we got for that episode.
Hey!
So, this was the Emmy that at the time I described as one of the cheapest Emmys ever given, because we had previously been nominated for an Emmy in the Outstanding Variety Music or Comedy Series category. I want to say for the Tony Bennett Show, but I'm not positive about which episode it was. It doesn't say. And we lost, but that's that's one of the awards that's on the main Emmy night. And we went to the big ceremony and we lost to Dennis Miller, who was a bit of a, he went up there and said, "Oh, it would have been terrible, babe, if we had lost to the Muppets."
Oh.
We're thinking it wouldn't have been so bad.
There he is. Look at him right there. Look at him.
Yeah,
There we go.
also,
Throw him off.
That's the man. That's the man.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
absolutely not the worst thing that Dennis Miller has ever said on television.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So then the next year, rather than submitting to Comedy Variety and go up against Bill Maher and Dennis Miller and Shandling and all these guys, we said, let's submit to the children's programming category.
Yeah.
And so we were nominated, and I think we were nominated up against a couple of, Linda Ellerby talks about domestic violence, and Linda Ellerby talks about really sensitive stuff.
Yeah.
And so we go to what we call the Saturday Emmys, which is they give the 25 important Emmys out on Sunday. On Saturday night, they give out about 150 more. And so the children's program is one of them.
Or the creative arts? Which one does that get handed out there?
I don't know. That may float. There may be a Friday Emmys for that one. For best marathon podcast. That's also that's got to be a. But with best Zoom meeting, that's got to be an Emmy next year.
We feel like we should have that on lock.
I hope there's a category for longest episodes, because that's
absolutely
where we'll really
We'd
shine.
win.
So we go and we end up tying for best children's program with Linda Ellerby. I think talks about something very seriously. Sure. And very serious. And so that's we got that Emmy for an episode. Prince didn't show up at that ceremony either, so he was he was probably the most difficult guest.
I want to note the second appearance of the Rob Reiner Muppet as a child with a T-shirt that says Meathead. That is a great runner.
By the way, so you also noticed going back 2 episodes ago, it's Rob Reiner, Carl Reiner's wife, Estelle, the late Estelle Reiner, who utters the famous line, "I'll have what she's having." So they also had to make a puppet of her.
Double Reiner. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did Rob feel left out? Or Carl? Carl must have felt left out, but he's like, what the fuck is going on here? I don't get the fucking Muppet.
Carl Reiner, who I only recently learned after his passing, is the only person in human history to have been on every incarnation of the Tonight Show.
Wow.
With every one of the hosts, including the brief time that Conan O'Brien was the host, and he was on that. Yeah, so now a fact that will kill any conversation. I want to also share with you some photos I have of the would you like to see?
Yes.
All right. So there's a couple of pictures on. Ignore the one of my child at the toilet, because we were potty training him.
That looks like a Patrick Connor photo if I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some.
Content. Is that Jim Lewis on the corner there? Is that who I'm saying?
This is Jim Lewis.
Yeah.
This is Dan McGrath. That's me at our big board. So that's us breaking down, I don't know, I guess 7 episodes on the big cork board. And then down at the bottom, that's us with Tony Bennett.
Oh, there you go.
That's Paul Flaherty is the one that looks like Joe Flaherty. That's Dick Lasucci, and that's Bill Barretta. This is really hard to do, guys. I hope you appreciate what I'm going through. And that's me. And we're all doing this because we're all paisan.
That's the best.
Patrick, here's a question. Oh no, you have more photos to show.
I got more pictures.
Yeah.
This is the only existing image of Kirk Thatcher asleep in the corner. There's Dick Lasucci again. Here's me with Martin Short.
Oh, isn't that just the best?
And then this is me and Paul, and this is Darren Henry over here. But just before this picture was snapped, you see Paul Flaherty grabs my hand. So I'm in this picture holding hands with Paul Flaherty, and it's okay.
It's great.
That's
Everybody go away. There you are.
Don't we all long for a time where we could hold hands with our friends?
Yeah. I would love to hold hands with any of you. That sounds great.
Well, we'll hold our own hands. I'm trying to jam in any other props that I brought.
No, you're doing an incredible job.
I wish they had let you keep one of those little.
Thank you, Watto. And here's your reward. I have my Watto figurine, which is part of my collection that you can't. I don't have a puppet of me. Unlike when I worked at at Futurama, where everybody gets a caricature in Matt Groening style, but they did nobody made a puppet of the writing staff. So, so I do have I have a Watto, and then I don't have action figures of either of you two guys. So I found my Walt Whitman, which is the closest
that's pretty
I
good.
can come. Where is he?
That is a
Walt Whitman.
Hold on.
I mean that's your George.
Yeah.
Right. It's not dressed the same. I'm sorry, I didn't have time.
Pretty close.
And then here from my Mark's Presidents collection. This is James Garfield.
Oh, you ready? Hang on. Let me do a James Garfield. You ready?
Oh, you ready? Oh, no, it's down here. It's back here.
Oh,
shot in the back. He's shot in the back.
Fake news.
My
Fake news, Patrick.
Yeah, there you
Pretty
go.
good.
It's a beautiful. It's a beautiful James Garfield. Thank you.
I got to say, Varone, I think you and I are fairly similar people, judging by how many mementos you have kept of your past work, and also how much unrelated merchandise you have at hand at all times. I think we are very similar and probably have similar looking homes.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but
I do wish you'd been able to. When I see the flashbacks of the Kermit the Frog show where they have the frog eyes for the Mickey Mouse ears, that feels like something. I always think about that when I think of things that people who made the show should have been able to abscond with.
Yeah.
Yes.
now,
Are those probably in a vault somewhere?
They belong.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I mean the Creature Shop was as proprietary as there were no loose props laying around after. I mean, I do have. Well, it's hard to have mementos from animation, but I have cells. And I have things from and I have cigarette butts that Johnny Carson put out underneath the frame of his desk. And but no, I have a. I don't have it here. I have it downstairs. I have a hockey puck that Don Rickles signed for me when he was. That was another one that I liked. I was the one who came up with the idea of putting him in the Kermit suit.
Great
idea. And we actually went down and watched him do it. And talk about a sport. I mean, this is the guy who you think of as being either crotchety or genuinely what he pretends to be.
But he's a nice guy. He told us he's a nice guy.
Yeah,
he would sing it
very,
to us.
very sweet.
And
I can say that now. He's dead too. But and then I have this is interesting. As these things go, when you get to the Pierce Brosnan episode, there's a sequence where he plays James Bond, and the costumers apparently didn't have his waist measurements, so they made his pants too big. So they ran up to the writer's room where I guess they thought there were James Bond looking guys, and they said, "Does anybody have a belt?" So I loaned my belt to the costumers.
You were like Q. You were like Q, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of, yes, after a fashion. Pierce Brosnan wore this belt as James Bond, and it now sits in a cabinet downstairs. He signed it. He signed it something like, "To Patrick, keep this close." Pierce Brosnan.
Wow.
So
now,
that's
Patrick, these episodes that we're watching on this playlist, you guys did an extra few minutes for the UK.
I forgot that. That's correct.
Yeah.
I remember doing them. They tended to be.
It was a lot of, it was like fairy tale PD or something like that, and then the Polly
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There were, I remember that. I'd forgotten about that until this morning when I looked at the Goodman script, and it didn't have fairy tale PD in it because that was written, because all that stuff, and I don't know where I put it, we did like 2 weeks of shooting ahead of time of just loose sketches that would get slotted in if we were short, and we were short for the British release. And that, so that's what that was. Yeah. So
my question was going to be if that became a burden for writers, if it was like, oh, we got to write the UK stuff this week. I didn't know. Yeah.
No, not really. Because, as I said, it was mostly, we wrote that all in those big early batches. And I think there was a lot of, I don't know that all the Phil and Dr. Phil and Mulch aired in the US. Some of them did, but I think a few of those were considered part of the British content. And I think the Seymour and Pepe stuff, because again, it was stuff that we could do before we got into full production. And so Brian was a little freer. I hope when you talk to him, he doesn't hate me for revealing.
Who knows?
Who knows what will happen?
We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Patrick, I'm curious. Like, was there ever anything you wrote or even pitched that got rejected, where they said like, we can't do this? Where you writing for puppets for the first time would write something, and then someone would say, this is too expensive. This is too logistically difficult. Was there ever any sort of learning curve with that of like, we can't get the puppet to do that, or we don't have the money to build this set or this many characters?
Mostly it was from the puppeteer's perspective as opposed to the puppet's perspective, because you understand when they shoot these shows, and this is true with Spinning Image too, they build life-size sets because you're dealing with human beings or human-sized puppets for Spinning Image. They build them 3 feet in the air or 4 feet in the air, and you have these catwalks and these ramps. And so because the puppeteers are like this, and they're standing on their feet on the ground, but the human actors and actresses are walking around at this level, at 3 feet in the air on these ramps. So it was very hard to manipulate anything that, it was hard to have dancing and so that sequence that you'll see with Martin Short and Piggy where he's already in the fat suit. And I mean, that was logistically that took hours
now
to do. So
Patrick, I do want to show, hang on one second, because we are at 1434.85. So we're getting close to 2000. And what I want is if everyone watching donates $4, that's our little thing is we say you donate a little $4, we'll get there.
I'm a $4 friend.
Yeah. And at 1500, we're very close. We're within like $70 or so of me inflating the BB-8 grate. Yeah.
But George and Patrick,
and let's also say, Patrick, I'm sorry, put it on this spreadsheet. At 1600, I will put on Josh Gad's screen-worn Snuggie from the TV show 1610.
Okay.
I'll put it on at 1600.
Great.
Wow.
Patrick, another thing you were talking about, you were bringing up a lot of stuff talking about puppeteers. And I feel like it would be unfair to talk about puppeteers if we didn't have a puppeteer here,
of course.
Okay, fine, fair enough. Okay, what do you want to ask me?
Watto, I wasn't talking about you. I'm gonna bring in a puppeteer right now. I'm not even gonna introduce him. I'm just gonna bring him on screen because he's got a great look right now. And here we go.
Hey, Bill.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, Patrick.
How are you, man? Nice to see you. It's been a long time.
Oh my God, I don't look as old as you. I don't think though.
Oh, you got Vaseline on the lens or something.
Yeah, I fogged it up. Hello, gentlemen. Hello.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm good. I was so happy to see Patrick on here. I missed
Yeah.
his face. How are you? I'm sorry. We'll talk to you guys. I want to talk to Patrick for a little while.
Please, give me a call.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Hey, look. No,
See, it's
hey,
just
oh.
us.
Hey.
Hey, Paisan, how are you? I showed them this
good.
picture.
What?
Yeah.
You got to bring.
showed
You
them
guys
this
have to
picture.
come back.
Remember this day?
Oh my God, with the
See?
hand.
Yeah, where everybody's doing Paisan.
I got to say, it's nice to have you on the show, Verone, because it's allowing us for the first time to have people say, "Happy to see you, Patrick." That is not something people usually say on the show when we're stuck with Connor.
Well, I'm happy to see Patrick with a K as well.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Don't give
what
him
we
that,
call him
please.
now.
We're trying to cut him down to size. His head's gotten way too big.
Come on, the beard. Look who he's got the beard.
look at
Although
it.
George
That's what I
definitely
said, the
has a
head's
beautiful
gotten
beard.
too big. The
Yeah.
George
beard.
has a beautiful beard as well.
Big beard.
Now, Bill,
Yeah.
we're watching a big episode for you right now because Cindy Crawford.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Cindy Crawford episode?
Yeah.
We got a big Bobo episode here.
Big
I-
Bobo.
I told him, Bill, that I keep this is the closest I have
Oh my
to
God.
my memories of Bobo. It's
Oh my God. I can tell you quick. You want to hear? I can tell you a quick story about Cindy real quick if you want to hear. It.
Yeah.
So, when we're working with, I think, Patrick, you were just touching on this, but, we have these raised floors, right? So it's about 3.5 feet above the ground, these decks that the actors are on, and we're down below. So being in that place, often you tend to see things maybe you're not supposed to, Right. And so Cindy and I had to do a dance routine together, and I was doing Bobo. And, my head usually is under his waist. Because I have to kind of be inside him. That's how wide he is. So I'm doing his head, but we're rehearsing, and she's wearing this red dress. I don't know if it's there yet in the episode, but she's wearing this red dress, and it has this slit that goes like we're pretty far up. And we're rehearsing, and we're dancing, and she I don't know, maybe she felt comfortable with me because it was towards the end of the shoot, but she just turned to me and she said. She goes, "Can you see? Is this too high?" And she kind of just pulled it aside, revealing things that I'm probably not supposed to. See.
Right now, we're looking at the dress. Yeah.
Oh, it is. And I think I kind of went, and I think Bobo just went. He just kind of coughed, and then she moved on. She just kind of moved it over out of the way. But it was just a very awkward moment. I've never had that happen again. But
So Bobo is the one who answered the question.
Right.
Apparently, it came out that way. I think he just kind of coughed.
I think that was the right move. I think have Bobo speak to it.
Yeah. It's one of those things you got to be careful, So I just had whatever was going to come out was going to come out onto him and not me. So,
Bill, I have a complimentary story to that, which is that I don't know if you remember Darren Henry, who was then the youngest writer on the staff, had to bring Pages down to her dressing room. And he knocks on the door, opens it. She's basically naked.
I remember that story.
But what you have to remember, she's a professional model. That is her instrument. That's what. So it did not matter to her. She assumed you would be a professional as well.
I imagined, she probably did.
You say that, Patrick, but it sounds to me like Cindy Crawford was thirst trapping on the set of Muppets Tonight. That's what it sounds like to me. That she was fishing.
And actually, Val Kilmer she was dating Val Kilmer at the time, and he came by. I remember they were hanging out in the dressing room, and that was like, we couldn't get her out of there for a little while.
Wow. Do you think Val was threatened by Bobo?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do want to say,
who wouldn't be?
I mean, we have less than $250 to get to Patrick's story. And if we can do it in the next few minutes, let's do it. Let's go.
We got the paywall story. We want to break it open.
I tell you what, I will pledge the $250 myself.
Whoa! Wow.
Look at that.
There we go.
Just to allow me to get off and go get lunch.
All right, let's hear the story.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in here.
I will make BB-8 great.
No, Bill, you can call BS on it if you've heard that the story is not true.
Okay, good.
But
You want to mute me, Patrick? This is going to be loud.
Sure.
So I don't know that I can reveal this, but we were supposed to have another first guest on the first episode. Before we got Michelle Pfeiffer, there was another actor or actress who was lined up to do the show. Once that person was in place, we contacted a relative of one of the producers of the show. That relative is named Henry Kissinger.
Oh, right.
He was supposed to appear in the cold open of the first episode. And I forget exactly what the joke was. And what I do remember of it, I can't really reveal because it would reveal who the other actor or actress was. But so Kissinger apparently agreed to do the not only the first episode, but the first scene of a Muppet show. And then the actress number one fell out. And
that is wild.
And he seems not to have been excited about doing it with Michelle Pfeiffer, I guess.
Wow.
So
that's a good story.
That's what I recall. Bill, do you have any corroborating?
No, you know what? Because I really wasn't involved in all that stuff because it was all such a new experience for me at the time. You know, it was my first Muppet series, and I'd just come off of Muppet Treasure Island, so I wasn't involved in all of what you guys were dealing with back there. So, but yes,
you were involved with all the times we were being told, nope, they're not going to do the show. No,
right.
I was looking at the scripts and we wrote a whole spec script for Clint Eastwood, which I can't imagine even now that there was no point in Clint Eastwood's career where he would have done the Muppet Show, right?
I don't know. I mean, the guy's pretty comfortable doing comedy routines with an empty chair. It's like a step up to be.
He hadn't done that. No, he had worked with the orangutans, but I just don't think he was prepared to do a Muppet. So there was that, and then we wrote another one for Tom Hanks, and either he turned us down or he was unavailable. We got a lot of that. We got a lot of. Well, they're not available right now, which is classic, don't call
it. Amazing.
The Noise said in the live chat, who would not be excited about doing it with Michelle Pfeiffer? If you need any further proof that Henry Kissinger is a war criminal, it's the fact that Michelle Pfeiffer was not enough incentive for him to do Muppets Tonight.
What was amazing was that Martin Baker was just, I don't know, this guy, the way he could get people to come on the show, just his personality and who he is, right, Patrick? Don't you think? I mean, I think that's a part of getting people on. Martin's he's just such a lovely guy. Like you can't really say no to him, and I think he was a big part of getting such great guests.
He was, and our actual talent coordinator was the woman who booked the Oscars. And when we landed her, we said, "Oh wow, we got the person who booked that." But then we realized, wait, nobody says no to the Oscars. That's the easiest casting job in the world. You want to do the Oscars? Hell yeah, 5 billion people, sure. So we weren't able to get. We were saying, "Oh, we'll get Jack Nicholson, and we'll get."
You guys got some pretty good people, though. It's a good.
I think, for sure.
Patrick, thank you so much for coming on.
It was my pleasure. The last photo I wanted to save till the end was the one that George apparently does not remember when we met.
Whoa! I remember that. This is
the face that Bill Barretta is remembering.
That's right.
That's what I look like.
It's the same. It's the same face. I'm teasing you.
You're very blind.
Italians don't age.
Right. And I'm making the same face.
It's not the same color hair. I'll say
I'm making the same face I made in that photo too. Just.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty.
Exactly. The beard covers the.
Can we do both, Patrick? Can we recreate that photo?
Hang on one.
We'll bring the photo up and we'll recreate it. Can we bring the photo up as well so we can? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's two. There's you want.
And you make your face. I'll make mine.
That's good.
All right, that's a waste of time.
What a great moment. No, it's a great moment.
Patrick,
in the water.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So
This is wonderful. Bill is good. That you were the best part, but everything else is good too.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I just I'm so happy you were here. Let's get on the phone and we can actually talk normally.
I got the same email address I had.
All right.
In 1996. So.
All right. I'll send you a note.
I don't want to. I'll put it in the chat. Can I put it in the chat to just you?
I have it. I think I have it.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
You're a big deal in Hollywood. You don't think I have it?
I'm big shot.
I got Writers Union. I got you. I mean, you're the.
Oh, that's right. You're in the guild. That's true.
Yeah,
okay.
you're the man. I can find you.
All right. We'll see you later, Patrick. Thank you,
Patrick. Thank you so much.
Arrivederci.
See ya.
I tell you, Patrick Verone, he's like 12 boxes of Raisin Bran.
He's amazing.
Why is that?
He gave us 24 scoops.
He gave us a lot of scoops.
I'm approximating.
Now, Bill, we're about to start watching the Tony Bennett episode, but I have another guest who's going to come in and join us. And we've talked about him a little bit so far because he was a big part of this show.
Is he old?
I mean, I'm not going to answer that. I'll let you ask him if you want.
All right.
He was an executive producer. He directed some. You also might know him as, okay. You also might know him as Dr. Phil Van Neuter or Sal or Nigel. Okay.
Very old.
Welcome, Brian Henson.
Hello, Brian.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for coming on.
Wonderful.
He looks the same.
Here,
Yesterday, somebody said, "I feel like I'm talking to Mick Fleetwood," and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." If I'm getting old and I'm looking like Mick Fleetwood, I'm not so bad with that.
Or Vincent Van Gogh.
No, I still got 2 ears.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Let's start this episode and then we can start chatting.
Wait, now what am I supposed to do? Am I meant to start it at the same time? How does it work?
So I will count down. We'll all press play at the same time, and then we're all watching the same thing at the same time. Just make sure your sound is down.
I'm wearing headphones so that I can have the sound slightly up because I like to hear it at the same time.
That's what I have the show in one ear and then Muppets Tonight in the other, so I'm simulcasting it.
Yeah.
And so Brian, you'll be watching my screen. You got that right?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're watching Bill's screen.
You have to drive over to Bill's house, watch over his shoulder. All right, so we are going to press play in 1, 2, 3.
Brian, you'll forgive me. I'm gonna mute myself for a second because I'm inflating this BB-8 for charity. So
he has to do it for charity.
Yeah.
Right. Brian, we and Bill, we already have had some guests say this, but I feel like it's an opinion that Patrick, George, and I hold, which is one of the best elements of this show is the comedic chemistry between the two of you across multiple characters. But it feels like you have some sort of lightning in a bottle, dare I say it, sort of the same kind of classic Henson and Oz energy, where anytime the two of you are playing two characters paired together, you feel that rush of two guys who find each other very funny and are working very hard to make each other laugh, which is very infectious. Yeah. Was that chemistry there from the beginning, the first time you worked together, or was that something that unfolded on this show?
It was there from the very beginning. From
when we were 17, actually.
Yeah, when we were 17, we were cleaning bathrooms at an amusement park. That's actually the way we met.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
We did.
A place called Sesame Place. Yeah.
Yeah, Sesame Place in Pennsylvania. And we were grounds ops personnel, right?
That's right. We were very good at it. Very good.
We were good at it. Bill and I were the only ones not living at home. So we would always run out of money on Thursday morning, and payday was Friday. So we could never eat on Friday night.
Who do you guys think was better at cleaning the toilets?
Great question.
It's not a question I ever expected to ask.
Definitely Brian.
I actually got a special commendation for my clean bathrooms.
Wow.
Yeah. I was good at finding a great spot to have a cigarette that was away from all the kids and stuff.
Sure.
Oh, but but now the show is playing, and we just missed that front.
Yeah, let's talk about the show. What is the first memory you have from the show? Because Brian, I imagine.
Okay. Well, what we of this episode, you mean,
or the show in general, either one.
Both.
Well, just on this episode, that scene that we just saw was Tony Bennett's first scene.
Yeah.
And we pulled the cloth off, and Tony started singing. And Bill was working Johnny Fiamma, and he just blew the scene because Bill just started crying. Literally, Bill just started crying because Tony Bennett was singing in the room with him. And we had to stop and do the whole scene again.
I had the next line. And I couldn't even say it, But it was a dream for me, and we did the read through with him, and he had that yellow jacket and the ascot on, and he was very tan. And I got to sit next to him, on the read through. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe this was actually happening. And he looked over and he saw that I had used a yellow a highlighter to highlight my lines, and he leaned over and goes, "Oh, what'd you do there?" I said, "Oh, I'm just highlighting my lines." He goes, "Oh, that's nice." I looked down. I said, "Do you want me to do yours for you?" "Oh, would you do that? That'd be wonderful." And so then I highlighted all of his lines.
Wow.
It was the best, man.
I think that was the first time he had seen that technology.
No, I think he wanted me to highlight his lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was this?
I imagine both of you guys, though, throughout your career, have had the opposite of that experience too. Like, are there times where you've worked with a celebrity and they blow a take because they can't believe they're actually acting against a Muppet?
Oh, sure. I mean, where they would just start laughing. Often they would just start laughing at the absurdity of the situation they were in.
I would go full Barretta. If I was in a scene with Gonzo, I would start crying. As a blue character with a big schnoz, I would not be able to hold back my emotion.
Yeah, no, I think there are definitely situations where people come and they just can't believe they're there, working with the Muppets. It does happen. And that's why I think our sets are always so fun, right, Brian? It's like people are they're just enjoying themselves for the most part. It's work and it's hard, but
well, this was it had been such a long time since I looked back at these episodes, and I was quickly reviewing this one earlier today, and I was remembering, boy, it's a really good show. The production design is great. Val Strazovic did the initial standing sets, and then Jim Dulce did all the swing sets, and this is a particularly great episode for that. But it also just has a delicious, absurd sense of humor. It's a little less linear than the original Muppet Show. The original Muppet Show moved in a smoother, simpler way, which at the time felt old-fashioned. So we were sort of, with Muppets Tonight, it was a much more sort of staccato, accelerated energy, which I have to say works better now than it did when we made it. It's interesting. The comic timing and tone and energy of Muppets Tonight is more contemporary. It makes more sense now than when we did it. When we did it, it was like people were like, "That's a little weird." What you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and even just the difference of the Muppet Show being a show about a theater. It takes place in a theater with the proscenium, and even just some of the subtle camera work because now you're in the world of television production and just the slight movements of the camera here and there that differentiated immediately whether you're paying attention to that or not. You'll have a different aesthetic.
Yeah. Hey, can I just show you something?
And we kept playing with the whole television industry. Like this sketch that's playing right now is really funny because she's the network standards
practices. Yeah, standards and practices.
Standards and practices. And she keeps coming in to say, "You can't use that term." And they're like, "No. A filthy dirtbag, that's actually what we're looking for, a filthy dirtbag." And it's very funny because it's making fun of television. We were always making fun of television, making fun of ratings, making fun of really ourselves.
Yeah.
I just want to show you something. This was from that was scary.
We're at the merch corner.
This is part of, I rarely take things or get things from our shoots, but this was from Johnny's memorabilia. This was Sergeant Tony's club, Lonely Hearts Club gang.
That's the best.
And these are all little Tony faces on all the characters.
That was from that first scene from the cold opening.
Oh,
yeah.
That's great. Just the level.
Brian, I'm curious. So you're doing this show right after coming off of directing 2 Muppet films. And Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island are very ambitious productions. I don't think they get enough credit for how much you were putting the Muppets into very, very complicated circumstances, very heightened universes, a lot of art direction, original sets, where the earlier films had been a lot of putting Muppets into real environments. Those are very heightened movies. You directed 2 episodes of this show, but a lot of the episodes, was it a relief to be able to focus on being a performer in the moment versus
Well, no,
having
actually,
to,
you know what? I was sort of more like, because my dad didn't direct the original Muppet Show, so he ran the floor, and I kind of did the same thing. So I directed 2 episodes later on because all the way through, I was kind of running the floor, and the directors were more concentrating on the cameras. So I actually felt pretty stressed. It wasn't like I was able. It would be, as I look at it back, I think, boy, it would have been fun just to be a performer, but that really wasn't what was going on. I was kind of figuring out how to do all of these scenes.
He always does more than everybody. He's always the busiest person. He's always maintaining the tone of everything so that it's consistent and that it's funny and that the characters and so that everything's working. He never gets a break. and the fact that we got to find some characters, you mentioned earlier, Watto, that we kind of paired up, was just the best part for me, to be able to come up with pairings. And even with Dr. Phil Van Neuter, that's all Brian, but I'm the hands, So
yeah, we did Phil Van Neuter, and it was on purpose, exactly the same way my dad and Frank Oz did The Swedish Chef. Yeah. And we did much the same. Like with my dad and Frank Oz, Frank did the hands, and my dad, Frank never wanted to be an assistant puppeteer. So he kind of did whatever he wanted to do with the hands, and my dad just had to follow with the head.
Yeah.
So we kind of did the same thing with Phil Van Neuter. It was like Bill did the hands, and he wouldn't tell me what he was going to do. All I knew is he was going to do really wild stuff with the hands. Yeah. But Phil's not in this episode, I think, at all. But this pairing that we did, Johnny and Sal.
Yeah.
Boy, this pair of characters came out very early on. As soon as we were first talking and doing little character workshops to figure out some new characters. Sure. And Bill had this character of Johnny Fiamma in his head, and it was also a character you were actually dressing up as a Johnny Fiamma and performing, doing.
Yeah, I did it as myself. Yeah, my brother and I.
Not as a puppet. Wow,
no, just as my brother and I did a bad fake documentary. It's actually pretty funny, but of the Fiamma brothers. But that's where Johnny came from. That was something I was playing with. But
and then the Sal was in Muppet Treasure Island, and he only has a brief appearance in the opening of Muppet Treasure Island when they're on the island, and it was such a great puppet, and it's one of these puppets. Jane Gutnick made it, where it was never designed or anything; she just made it, and it was this fantastic puppet that I had so much fun with. And I just came up with this. He's an incredibly abusive bodyguard who's only going to make every situation worse that he's in. And yet, and the fun thing is the two don't belong together at all, except underneath it, they really love each other, which is why and that's actually what gives this particular episode power, because Johnny falls out with Sal in this episode, which is very, very painful for Sal.
Well, and also I think too, like Sal keeps Johnny on a pedestal. Johnny needs Sal desperately, right? To maintain his ego and who he thinks he is. And can I just tell you what real quick? The biggest compliment I think that we got, Brian, if you remember, is we did the telethon, the Jerry Lewis telethon.
I was just going to bring up, that's one of my favorite Johnny and Sal things, is when you guys were telethon.
Thank you. And the biggest compliment was that when we were sitting and talking with Jerry before we did it, he said that Johnny and Sal reminded him of him and Dean. And I just thought, oh my God, well, okay, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. And actually, when we did Johnny and Sal for Jerry Lewis, we did I think probably the most challenging piece I've ever done, which was live television at 3 o'clock in the morning. We did, I can't remember the name of the song now. Bohemian
Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody. And we did it as a live performance at 3 o'clock in the morning, beginning to end. And it came out great.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that it worked. I was like, it was one of those where I was like, it's gonna go wrong, but it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And then here, I'm probably about the same place where you guys are, but these were characters from Treasure Island that we also brought into the series. Was Polly the Lobster, Clueless, part of Long John Silver's sidekicks.
I think
we like the characters so much from the movie.
I think one of the funniest jokes on the show, the recurring joke of whenever Clueless comes in, the audience goes nuts. The audience loves it. I think it's so funny. But I think these were only in the UK. I think we were talking about that earlier. These.
Oh, I think that's right.
Yeah.
And
they were part of the
Tubman
2-minute pieces.
Yeah.
And the Howard Tubman pieces, I think, were part of the UK package.
Yeah, that's because the UK format is longer than the US format. And in the original Muppet Show, we always had to do the same thing. And those people, we called them the 2-minute pieces when we made the Muppet Show. But I think when we made Muppets Tonight, it was more time than we needed. So it was often 2 segments that would only air in England or Europe, but not in America. And they're some of my favorite pieces, but you have to not spend much time on them. So you tend to do them in almost 1 take, maybe 2 takes, get through it quick.
There's so many.
It's great that as time goes on, Americans get less and less TV. Like the UK audiences stay the same, and American TV just gets shorter and shorter.
There's so many characters that get introduced on this show that don't necessarily show up in other things later on. Are there anyone that you guys like doing that you're like, I wish they were still around because you missed them?
Justice for Seymour. I want Seymour.
I actually loved doing Seymour, and Bill and I loved doing the two of them together, Pepe and Seymour.
Yeah.
But Seymour, he didn't have the same legs that, so to speak. He didn't have the lasting qualities that Pepe had, and I was aware of that even when I was performing him. But it was so much fun doing it together. But
again,
Seymour,
another dysfunctional pair.
But
that's us, basically.
With Muppets Tonight, we were always trying to throw a lot of characters at the show.
Yeah.
Which was the same thing that my dad did with the original Muppet Show. It was like, throw characters at it, see if they work. And then if they work, you keep using them. And otherwise you just get stuck with the same cast of characters. And then the tone of the Muppets never can evolve. It can, unless you're throwing new characters in. And so it was something that my dad always did, and I very much wanted to do. And it does mean that in Muppets Tonight, you don't get tons of screen time for favorites that the audience, you don't always see the favorite characters in every episode. But I really think that's the right thing to do, to just keep trying new stuff and trying new stuff.
I also think as you watch these, that there's a nice balance between the legacy characters and the new characters, and in a way, it raises the game of whenever you do bring the legacy characters, they have to they have to match the level that you're establishing with some of the. You know what I mean? They can't just rest on their laurels. They have to be funny and new and interesting ways. I think it's invigorating for the show as a whole.
Well, that's interesting.
And I think
that's interesting because sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say the energy of the discovery, that as you're watching it, you can tell that as performers and writers, you're finding these characters and identifying these bits for the first time. It's exciting to watch.
Yeah, and I think in the tradition of just the Muppets and the performers is that new characters come out of good characters and good relationships. You know, it's sometimes you find things, but then sometimes you're just really working the relationships, and that's a big key to why they last, I think. You know,
and it's fun. It's fun to see a character like Sam the Eagle have to interact with Andy and Randy.
Right.
And it brings out because
Sorry, oh, that was I'm sorry to interrupt you, George, but that was when he catches that piece of paper, it was just a fluke. That's my favorite thing in this whole thing. And I love this sequence with this song, you know, that you hear Tony Bennett singing. If we could hear it, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
But that it perfectly just ends up here. You know, he's been walking the streets and he ends up and Tony's singing it. It's like he's been rehearsing in his dressing room.
Someone in the chat says a comment which I think is interesting. You might say that opposed to Frank and Jim, whose duos seem to strive to make each other better, Brian and Bill's duos bring out the worst in each other.
Yeah, we're constantly undermining each other. Constantly.
Yeah. I also do want to say, George and Watto, a lot of people in the chat want us to have a stretch goal for fundraising so that we have to watch Muppets Treasure Island after we watch Muppets Tonight. What should that number be, George and Watto, or Brian and Bill? We are currently at $1,784 right now.
Right.
I mean, can I tell you what I'm thinking?
Yeah, sure. Watto.
Yes.
The big fundraiser, fair fight, right? These elections coming up, nothing less than the future of our democracy is at stake. I want to blow the roof off this thing. I think we should introduce 2 stretch goals right now. I think there should be a stretch goal to watch Christmas Carol, a stretch goal to watch Treasure Island. I think both should be on the board separately. I think
let's do.
And they have to be high because this will come at the end of watching both full seasons. Okay, so it will be it will be going well into the wee hours of the night.
Let's do 4,000 Christmas Carol, 4,500 Muppets Tonight.
Higher, Patrick. My God, don't give away the score.
Thank goodness for COVID. You guys wouldn't be able to do this.
I know.
Absolutely.
I say we got to push it higher than that for both of those, Patrick.
What is it then?
10,000.
10,000 is what I was thinking too.
Watto, you
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do 10,000 and we'll do both then.
Patrick, Muppet Christmas Carol is an American classic. People want it, and so we have to hold them hostage. We have to tell them that they need to raise $8,000 more to get that.
I think they can do it.
But we're not giving away both movies at one goal. We have to push the other one a little high. Patrick, you know this is right. You're being a
Treasure Island is 12.
Oh my God!
Right. If we can get to
we're
10,
gonna get it. We're going to zoom past it.
Okay, great. That sounds
great. Patrick, I think this election is important.
I don't know. Patrick, if you want Trump to stay in office for another 4 years, we can set a lower stretch goal. It's up to you.
We'll do it.
Hey, here's some characters I wish we could continue with. The Elvises.
The Elvises.
Oh, yeah.
Brian, myself, and Jerry Nelson, who I miss so much.
We did the most terrible impersonations of Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
But we had so much fun doing it.
Yeah.
They originated on the Muppet Fairy Tales.
That's where it started, yeah.
Yeah, Twisted Muppet.
Now, the New York Times had an article about the Presley estate earlier this year, how they were trying to disassociate Elvis Presley from rock and roll music and focus on him more as an icon. Might be a good time to bring these Muppet Elvises back.
This was hard to do, to get this finger in that spot.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That was hard to do with a rod.
What would you guys say the hardest thing from this show that you remember?
Hardest?
Yeah, the hardest thing to do, like that, like some gag or some effect. Is there anything that you remember being particularly?
I don't know. For me, the hardest thing was the schedule.
Sure.
Was just plain old the schedule. It's such an ambitious show. But we had come off of doing Dinosaurs, which was even more ambitious, and we had to wrap every week.
Yeah.
But my dad did the Muppet Show in London, and the unions in London never give overtime ever to television shooting. My dad would request overtime literally every week in England, and every week they would reject it. And they said, we never approve. It had to be unanimous approval. And when he did the last episode of the Muppet Show, the crew presented him with 15 minutes of overtime as the only time they had ever approved overtime for a television shoot in England. my dad used to always shoot really late and all that, but he couldn't in London. It had to be very, very disciplined.
Yeah.
And so here we were able to be much more ambitious, but the schedules were really hard. I'm trying to think what was the hardest thing to do. We did Thor. Bill and I did 2 characters, 2 Greek gods that were always battling each other. It was it was Thor versus Zeus.
Yeah,
Thor and Zeus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the puppet was so heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I couldn't get through a take.
Big Mean Carl was really hard for me.
Yeah.
That was a new thing because he's so big and hard to handle. But I can I just show you something? It's just a bit the Tony thing. So you know, this was, like I said, a dream for me, right? And to be able to sing with him and actually to rehearse, you know, like to be on the stage with Ralph, who was doing the piano and just singing there with him.
All brown ears.
Yes. But he would go, no, sorry. I meant Ralph, Tony's arranger.
Okay. Well,
I can't remember. Sorry. I can't remember his last name. He was a famous arranger. So Tony, you know, would wait in his trailer while we were shooting, and they had TVs in there so they could watch what was happening on the stage. And if you're not aware, Tony is an artist, right? So he's always drawing and sketching and painting. And so at the end of the day, he came up to Brian and myself and Kevin Clash and said, "Excuse me." He said, "Excuse me, fellas, would you mind signing this?" And I said, I was like, "I'm sorry, what? You want us to say what?" And so he asked us each to sign it. And years later, I went to see him in concert, and we kept in touch over the years, but I went back and he had the same sketch pad, and he goes, "Remember this?" I was like, "Oh my God." He goes, "Yeah, you can have it."
Oh my God.
So he gave it to me. And then just last year, I realized, because I had it in storage, that he hadn't signed it. So I sent it to him and he signed it for me. But but that he was in there drawing, this is what he loves, you know, he was enamored by the look of them and the style and the colors and how all that worked, you know. Yeah. And interesting, sorry to blab on, but it was only until we shot the Johnny Fiamma talk show part was when he finally was able to kind of connect with the characters. Before that, it was like, "Oh, these are beautiful," you know, and he just see shapes and colors. And we were sitting there, and Brian was stuck like there in the couch, and I was behind the desk, and we were in between.
Actually, this is when he developed the connection, was when we were goofing around, when we weren't doing the scene. That's when Tony got into it and started just treating us like people. It was in between, and I had Johnny turned in between the takes, and I said, "Tony, you know what's wrong about the bread in California?" And he said, "No, what, Johnny?" And I said, "It's the water. You can't get the right water here." He goes, "You're right. You know, that's absolutely right, Johnny." And then he just started like talking to him about bread and pasta. I was like, "We got him, Brian. We got him, Brian." Then he turned to Sal. He was like, "What are you eating over there, Sal?" You know? So good.
The eyebrow mechanic on Johnny Fiamma is so good and feels so classically Muppety. You know, I feel like anytime a Muppet would reveal their sort of like special move in that kind of way, this is the thing that this one character can do that the others can't. Yeah. And it gives so much expressiveness.
That was good. That was very, whoever thought of doing that was the key to Johnny, because there were two things, his brows, and when he was originally sent from New York, that was done, the brows, which I love to death. But he had a straighter line into his mouth. And Jane Gutnick said, "Bill, do Johnny a little." And I was like talking like this. And she goes, "He's missing your smirk." And I said, "Oh, that's like the Jersey smirk. That's what people do, you know." And then she figured out a way to build that in. Wow. And then that became who he was, you know.
I mean, it's a great puppet. I hope they do some more stuff with him, because it's been a little bit and I miss him.
Me too. They've refurbished both of them, and I'm trying to get Brian to come and play, and we're going to figure out something to do with them soon.
It's a little bit, I mean, an album. I think that Disney, for the most part, have not been approaching the Muppets as let's throw lots of new ideas into everything that we do. So So they've been much more interested in making sure to service the classic characters, but it means there isn't enough as much space to play with other stuff.
Right.
Well, we'll start the demand here. Hashtag more
Awesome.
Sal. Bill, I think you have to run because you're.
I do. I apologize.
But I think you're gonna come back later. Maybe.
I would love to do the Johnny Fiammeli's home episode. That would be great.
Hey.
I have a couple other things to share with you then, but I'll show you one last thing before I go. It is, where are you?
Look at you, Bill. You've got all your props and stuff.
I found this yesterday. I was going through stuff and I thought, do I have anything? I just want to show you this. This is early. This is when Leslie Carrara was with us. This is from Muppets Tonight. There's Kevin Clash, Steve Whitmire, myself, and Leslie. But she was so brand new and so amazing.
Oh, that's the best.
We really got lucky, didn't we, Brian, when we found her?
Yeah.
That's
All right, fellas. Thank you.
All right. See you a little bit.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks so much. All right. See you, Brian.
See you, Bill.
Now, before we start this next episode, I do have another guest that I want to bring on.
What?
He's the guy that, Brian, you've been working with him a lot lately. I feel like you've seen Earth to Ned he worked on and the Happy Time Murders he worked on. But you might know him from Muppets Tonight because he was a little guy named Clifford. Please welcome Kevin Clash to the stream.
The Clash!
So funny. It's a good little guy named Clifford.
It's a good little guy named Clifford.
The little guy.
Hi, Kev.
Hi, Brian. Hi, guys.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Kevin, we're about to start this episode with Sandra Bullock.
Cool.
So we're all going to press play at the same time, and then we will chat a little bit.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Where do I press it at? Where do I go?
Did you get the YouTube link? I can put it in the chat if you didn't.
Yeah, if you can put it in because I know I have to go to the email that I got to open.
Yeah, hang on one sec. I'll get it for you. While we're talking, Kevin, can you talk a little bit about the origins of Clifford?
Yes, it was funny. Jim was like, "We really got to design a character for you with this new band."
Yeah.
Because I think Digit came out of that. You know,
Yeah.
Dave Gold's character, and then
This was on Henson Hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
And
but
specifically Jim wanted to bolt on more cast members to the Electric Mayhem band.
Yeah.
To freshen that band. But also my dad just was really fond of Kevin as a performer and just wanted to get him into that mix. And I remember the puppet early on and you working it and my dad working it before anybody knew what he was going to be doing or anything.
Yeah, it was really cool because I would go into his office, and he brought Kirk Thatcher, who designed a lot of good.
Yeah.
And Kirk, I remember Kirk bringing in like 3 or 4 designs, color differences of designs of the actual Clifford puppet. And then we just picked from there, what color would work with him. And that's when it started. That's when it went that way. And it was all fun because Kirk is amazing with designs and stuff like that. So he had about 3 color choices, and then we picked from that. The 3 of us picked from that, and that's how he came about.
And that band was Solid Foam. Was that band right?
No, he was. Oh, that's the name of it. I think
Yeah.
the name of the band was Solid Foam. Yes.
Kevin, I put the link in the chat. So if you just bring it up and you put the sound down,
right.
We'll all hit play at the same time once you're ready.
So what do? I copy it or something?
Yeah, if you just copy and paste it into a new tab and then.
But if you want to see us at the same time, Kevin, you have to open 2 windows, one with the YouTube and one with us. You have to open another window.
Brian knows the instructions that I sent.
And see, I looked at it and I still don't get it.
I know. I'm sorry.
But we will help. We are here for you, and we will not leave you
All
behind.
right, so where do I copy that at? Where do I go?
If you just put it in the
Brian, don't say anything. Okay.
He's a director. He can't help himself. He wants to direct you.
Okay, here we go. You know what? I'm
this.
taking everyone off. It's just gonna be me and Kevin going through
Okay,
this.
good.
All
So
right.
what now? So what?
Okay, so Kevin, go into the private chat. You have the link.
I highlighted it.
Okay, so now copy and paste it into up top into a different tab where you would put.
Copy it. I'm gonna copy it.
Yep.
Now, where do I paste it at?
Into if you open up another tab in your internet.
Oh, like a window?
Yeah, yeah.
See, I'm telling you.
This is great.
Okay, so open a new tab. I just opened a new tab.
Yes.
Okay, and then I paste it into the Google search. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm doing it right now so I don't hold everybody up.
No, we're doing great.
And now I hit enter or something. I just double click on it, don't I?
Yeah, if you hit enter, it should go.
Okay. Oh, I hit enter. Okay. All right. Oh, look
at that.
It's told me ice cubes are just made of water. And then I'm gonna turn it off. I turned it off, and now
so now we're all gonna press play. Let me bring everyone back in.
Now
we go. Hey guys, welcome back.
Okay.
And also, Bryson, we're going to need a new bumper for this new recurring segment, tech support with Patrick.
All right, so let's all we'll all press play at the same time. We're going to go 1, 2, 3.
Kevin, I have so many Clifford questions. I don't even know where to start. But the thing that jumps out to me immediately with you now on the stream is Clifford feels like the character that is closest to your own speaking voice. And it feels like a lot of the Muppeteers have one character that kind of feels the most personal, the one that's maybe closest to their own personality, their own speaking voice. Was Clifford, did it feel like a more, I don't know, did it feel like that character was closer to you than a lot of the other ones you played?
Well, what was funny is I was like a nerd in school and stuff like that, and so I always wanted to be cool like the other guys, and so Clifford is a lot more cooler than I am or was. But it is much closer to my voice than any other character that I've done.
Mm-hmm. How do you? Something we were talking about earlier is the controversy of Clifford losing his sunglasses. How do you?
Oh, I don't want to talk about that.
You don't want to talk about it. Okay.
I plead the fifth. No. It was something that was talked about because you know with glasses you don't see you can't really see as much of the personality, and that's why they went away.
Yeah.
But that's the reason. You know, hopefully, well. I would, you know, if I ever get to ever do them again, I'd love to have the sunglasses back on because that's the coolness of it.
Yeah.
He turned into me more on the show because without the glasses, he turned into a nerd.
I do want to say I love Earth to Ned, which is something.
Oh, thank you.
It's so much fun, and I hope people will watch it.
And Kevin was doing clods all over the place in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were like the rats from the Muppet Show.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. But Kevin, you and Brian are also, you're paired up in this because you're Mulch with Dr. Phil.
We had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember which Dr. Phil sketch is going to come in, but I loved doing Dr. Phil, but I kind of stopped because it's so hard on my voice. That voice is so that I ended up having vocal surgery at one point because I had ripped but it wasn't just Phil. It was Phil, and it was I was directing in Australia, and I was yelling all the time, and then I got polyps on my vocal cords. But it was all I didn't mind it at the time. But with Muppets Tonight, we used to group the Phil Van Neuter pieces together. Yeah. And then I would do them, and then I couldn't perform for 2 days afterwards because I wouldn't have a voice for 2 days. So we always had to do it like on the Friday before it's a proper 2-day weekend.
You could rest over the weekend. Yeah.
Kevin, do you remember the conversation about Clifford becoming the host of this show? How that happened and how you felt? Yes.
Oh, wow, that freaked me out. I kept saying, what? Really?
Well, that was my choice. And I really wanted, I wanted to make sure that, there wasn't just a pure expectation for the same starring cast with the same cast dynamic from the original Muppet Show. And the easiest way was to take Kermit out of the host role. And also, Steve Whitmire hadn't been doing Kermit for very long, and doing Kermit in Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island is different. That's doing a movie where you do 2 pages of dialogue in a day, maybe, and it allowed Steve to be very, very rehearsed with Kermit when we were doing the movies. So I also didn't want Kermit in a host role. I didn't want him working that hard in this show.
Yeah.
But I really wanted just a whole new dynamic. Oh my God, this whole slap sequence. I love this so much. I forgot about this until I reviewed it this morning.
I did. It was so funny.
And it's so funny. Sandra,
while you were slapping.
oh my God. She had so much fun with us. Honestly, we got along so well with Sandra. We were like, I expected her to like just come and hang out, but she didn't. I was like, well, when she was done on Friday, we'll see you next Monday, right? You're gonna come back again? We had so much fun with her.
But what was wonderful is she would not stay in the dressing room. She had to hang out with us. She was always there on the set with us. I mean, she had such a wonderful time. Yeah, I felt the same way, Brian. I wish it would have continued after we.
I thought it would. I literally thought she's going to come hang out like one day every week.
because, like Brian says, she had such a great time, and that whole we'll get it. You'll see it in this show where she does the one-man band. She just loved that. She just went crazy loving that.
It takes performers have to have a real confidence that is very attractive to be able to deliberately make fun of themselves the way that she could. And it's particularly tough with well-known, very attractive actresses. They don't usually want to just totally make fun of themselves the way that she was so game to do. It was such fun.
Who were you guys both most excited for who came on this show? Was there a guest host that you were like, this is my number one?
You know what?
It's okay.
I can't say. I can say, and I heard you were talking to Patrick about it earlier.
Yeah.
The very first episode was not Michelle Pfeiffer.
Was it?
It was.
I thought
no, it was not going to be. It was going to be another actress, and she deserves me to say her name, but I'm not going to. And
really,
and her agent called and backed out like 4 days before shooting, and said, I'm sorry, my client, she's broken her toe or something, she can't make it. And I was like, you can't treat this like a David Letterman appearance. We've actually built 4 sets because we were going to parody her movies. And the agent was like, yeah, sorry, it's the way it goes. She can't make it. And then on our first day of shooting, when she was meant to be there, I saw her at some movie premiere. And it was like literally that other actress had canceled so that they could go to a movie premiere and not come and do the show. So we had to scramble and had to build all new sets. And I heard you talking to Patrick about Henry Kissinger and stuff and his son getting, but in the end, we got Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
And I had such a crush on Michelle Pfeiffer that to me, it was like, boy, have I never fallen uphill like that. That was like, it was so fantastic. And when we called her and said, we're just so up the creek because we have to start shooting and we don't have our first guest star and it's a brand new show. And she was like, I'm in, I'll come. And she was just fantastic. So
it's really a shame that Meryl Streep was like that.
No, I'm not going to. It wasn't Meryl Streep. I'm not going to tell you who it was. I shouldn't. although they deserve it.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Is there an amount of money for charity where you would feel the good would outweigh?
I'm gonna push through that one.
I didn't quite hear what that was. I'm sorry.
He said that there an amount of money for charity where the good would outweigh you not wanting to push through and saying the name.
I don't think I should.
It's fine.
It's two that I was excited, that I was really excited about. One was Prince.
Yeah.
I was blown away about working with him, especially with the challenges that he was having at the time.
Which we didn't know about. He had just had a baby who was not in good shape, and he came to do our show anyway. But Prince was absolutely fantastic to work with.
Yeah,
very talented.
Now, and you don't need to answer this if you don't want to. I had heard that Prince has small feet. Did you see his feet?
He has small feet.
Yes, very.
Prince walked on set, and I remember saying to somebody, my gosh, he really is quite little, isn't he? And they said, yeah, but look at his shoes. And he was on 4-inch heels. and I was like, oh, Wow, he is small. It's amazing. He was very petite.
Yeah.
Gorgeous man. And we'd had all the warnings. It was when he couldn't use a name.
Sure.
You know, in hindsight, it was all very, very intelligent legal maneuvering that he was doing to get out of his label deal. But he couldn't admit that that's what it was. So he was saying, oh, for spiritual reasons, I don't want to have a name anymore. I'm a symbol. But it meant none of us knew how to talk to him.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like, so you'd have to go, hey, man. Hey, guy. Wait, look over here. Let me talk to you. But he was great. Great.
So what he was so impressed about, Polly Smith, who is this amazing lady that does a lot of the costumes for Muppets. Brian, of course, can tell you about it. She went and found all of his booklets that you get at all of his concerts, all of the costumes and everything. She took those and she literally dressed all of the Muppets in all of his costumes over the years of his concerts. And so every time he would come out, there would be another Muppet with one of his costumes on from his shows. And he was beyond impressed. He had to take photos of every single one of them.
That's so funny.
And boy, did he work. I remember it was like 3:45 in the morning. And he was like, so I'm still good. And I was like, and he was like, can we do that fourth musical number? Like he had prepared 4 musical numbers. And I was like, you know what? We really can't. I got to let these guys go. They're so tired. They've been here since 8 o'clock this morning. And he was like, I can keep going. And I was like, you know, it'll be 8 o'clock in the morning before we're done. And I remember he was just so enthusiastic. He was like, I can keep going. Let's keep going. He was great. Anyway, but back to Sandy Bullock.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is sort of related to that, but something I noticed while watching this, there's a lot of episodes without a specific host. Was that a conscious choice where it's like, there's the cameo show where a bunch of people shows up. There's the Johnny Fiamma episode. There's a lot, whereas the Muppet Show, everyone had a host. Was that something you guys were consciously trying to go for?
Well, we were consciously much looser with our format.
Yeah.
So the Muppet Show had a very, very tight format. And it was what I was talking about earlier. We were deliberately more staccato in our pacing and a little bit more unexpected. So sometimes we would do sort of ensemble episodes where there was a couple of guest stars.
Yes.
And ABC I think they were totally fine with that. It just seemed more interesting to just sort of mix it up a little bit. So that was why.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Did you guys film it all back to back? Was it filmed like one season, or was it filmed actually as 2 seasons?
No, it was filmed as 1 season.
Yeah.
Well, it was filmed as 1 season with a pickup order. That's the way you used to do it. So they'd order 13, and then while you were shooting episode 5, they decide whether to add more because it's more costly to shut down and then start back up. So I think we were shooting probably episode 5 or 6 when they said, go ahead, and we were making 13. They said, go ahead and make 22.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that right? There's 22 total. Is that right? Yeah. My own memory. I think that's right.
Yeah. 22.
But we did basically do them all at once. I mean, there would be little hiatuses. Like in those days, every show had hiatuses. Like we'd probably shoot 3 episodes and then take a week off, and then 3 episodes and then take a week off.
I mean, not to get sad, but when was the point when you guys were like, we might not be coming back after this? Did you know production?
Because there was a big gap between airing, right? There's almost a year between when season 1 ends and when season 2 starts up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we probably knew. I think we knew we weren't going to be ordered for a second season, even while we were shooting probably the last, probably just the last 1 episode, probably.
Sure. Right. So when season 2 was about to air, you already knew.
Oh, we were already down because at that point they were basically airing the last section of the season 1 order.
Yeah, I'm looking here. The season finale of season 1 aired July '96, and then season 2 premiered September '97. So it's almost a year for episode 2.
Yeah, and that was well after we were done shooting.
Okay,
it was well after. And the big issue, which I kind of was a thing between me and ABC, was ABC thought Muppets Tonight would be such a huge hit that they were positioning that Muppets Tonight would save Thank God It's Friday, TGIF, which was the ABC Friday night comedy block.
Yeah.
And I was saying, you can't put that much pressure on the Muppets because the Muppets haven't been on television recently. Right now, the Muppets are known as movies and Sesame Street. And you're going to have to reposition them as family primetime television because they haven't been since the Muppet Show. Or a little bit with the Jim Henson Hour. And they, they just stuck us right at the front of that TGIF block that was failing. So it was a failing night that was slipping.
Yeah.
And then we got slotted into it. And in hindsight, I just kind of wish they'd put us in our own spot rather than that. I think they had too high expectations on what it was going to do. And at the same time, it was getting ratings like 17% of the market. It's like today, you can't even imagine a show getting 17% of all the people watching television.
This would be the Big Bang Theory of today if it was on. Yeah. Wild. Kevin, I was reading something, I think it was Muppet Wiki. It said you play Waldorf in one of the episodes.
I don't remember.
It said, no, it was on IMDb. You were credited as Waldorf. I don't know why. Okay, well,
that would have been a mistake. But at the same time, we often had to cover each other puppeteering wise and then replace the voice.
Yeah.
But Kevin was not ever the voice of Waldorf, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, we debunked it. Guys, go fix the IMDb. Everyone watching.
I mean, did we ever look at you doing Waldorf, Kev? I don't think so. I mean, we didn't use Statler and Waldorf for a while after my dad died because we were more concerned about who's going to work Kermit.
Yeah.
But then we settled onto Dave Goles and Jerry Nelson pretty quickly. But Statler and Waldorf was particularly difficult because there was a comic team where both of them had passed away. Where both Jerry and my dad, both Richard and my dad,
right,
Richard Hunt and my dad Jim Henson, they had both died, and so it was a particularly tricky one figuring out how to bring back Statler and Waldorf because it was both. We needed chemistry with two brand new performers.
Both of you guys have taken over characters from people in the past. Is that a hard thing to do? What do you think is the hardest aspect of taking over a character for someone?
It's a very hard thing to do.
I think it's the voice impersonation. To me, that's by far the biggest problem with replacing art, and it's why it's so much harder with puppetry than animation. Because with animation, the voice and the animating of the character and the voicing of the character, it's different artists. But with puppetry, it has to be the same artist.
Sure.
And to ask that a puppeteer be a great performer as well as a great impersonator is really, this Spud. that was me performing. And I remember everybody was like, oh, look, Brian's just getting his rage out. Because I was known to be pretty darn calm on set, and they gave me that little Spud, and I just went crazy with it. Anyway, but I would say by far it's the voice impersonation, and that's why I only did Scooter and Janice for one special. After I didn't because it's just so hard for me. I would have to have a recording of the character that I could play in my ear right before performing because voice impersonation is just not my thing. And I think that's the hardest.
Yeah.
And not surprisingly, the best voice impersonators were like Steve Whitmire, who liked to do impersonations of everybody. And so not surprisingly, he did a very good impersonation of Kermit, which was, of course, the first and toughest one for us to recast.
I haven't really taken over that, characters that much.
Were you Sam the Eagle in something?
Well, I was Sam, but I mean, Brian knows this.
But then we revoiced him.
Oh, okay.
But I remember at the time, the big performance was Muppet Treasure Island.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin did all of Sam Eagle in Muppet Treasure Island and was doing a really terrific Sam Eagle. And I remember even Frank was like, do do you really want me to replace the voice? Because that Kevin Sam is a really fun Sam. It's a really good Sam. And we're like, no, Frank, we would like you to replace the voice. But I remember at the time, Kevin Sam was very, very strong on Treasure Island.
Yeah, he was the one I connected to more than having to perform the other ones, because of course Frank was shooting a movie at the time. But he did come in and do some Piggy and some Fozzie. They actually, fortunately, at the moments where you really, really needed him to be, those two, as Brian knows.
Right. Yeah.
But it was more in that sense, because Frank was going to come back and loop. It was more just really keeping the mannerisms and the character of his characters to make sure it wouldn't be too uncomfortable because somebody else is performing that he has to loop it, so.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's the beginning of the longest stupid running gag of these two guys trying to make one joke land, and they cannot make the one joke land, and it just keeps going, and it goes all the way into the bloopers at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
See, I love it because it's harkening back spiritually to my favorite thing in all of the Muppets, which is the Fozzie Bear dynamic. Here's how the bit should go. The audience knows how it should go, and he can never land it correctly. Like for me, like Fozzie Bear with Chucky is the height of comedy.
Yeah.
Not understanding how a puppet works. And I love, because you have less of Fozzie in the show, Seymour and Pepe start to bring in that energy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The disconnect between how in sync they are off stage versus how much they fail to make their bits land in front of an audience.
I just get
this is where this what we used to call the stupid pigs. I mean, literally, they were the most stupid puppet characters that would ever develop. Not a clear thought in their heads.
Hey, Brian, I don't remember you directing any of these. Did you?
I directed 2 episodes, but you know what? Honestly, I was just running the floor all the way through. And I directed Prince. I do remember that and thinking, wow, that's a tough episode. I directed Prince, and I directed one other, and I don't remember which one it was. And of course, Prince was the artist at the time. I directed the one episode with no episode title.
I'm looking to see what the other one was that you did. Hang on 1 second.
I love how pissed.
Says Rick Moranis. Says the other.
I love how pissed Pepe got.
Rick Moranis. And did I do Prince or did I not do Prince? I was thinking.
You did Prince.
Okay.
You did Prince and Moranis. Yes.
And Rick, of course, and Rick was a good friend. So working with Rick was just a ball because we'd had history from Flintstones and other stuff that he'd been working in and around us for a while, and he and Dick Blasucci, the head writer, executive producer, were old good friends. So when Rick came, that was just lovely and easy and fun.
Did either of you guys work on Little Shop?
Sure, I did all the way through. Yeah. I was Anthony Asbury and I were the 2 lead performers, meaning we were inside the head on Little Shop of Horrors, and I did the Feed Me size. And he did the really big one. Yeah. Wow. Oh, and this was where, it turns out that it was Sandra Bullock who was pretending there was a bomb.
Classic.
And you were talking about...
It's such a silly, stupid storyline that we just sort of stuck in there that now suddenly there's a bomber, and if they can't keep the ratings above 50, then the bomb's going to go off.
Yeah, that's great.
It's great.
What were you going to say, Watto?
No, I was going to say, Patrick was telling us that often you would only have this special guest star for a day. You would have to sort of block shoot all their stuff together. But that Bullock was so game. It feels like there's more of her in this episode than there are of guest stars in other episodes. Did she give you more time shooting-wise, or did you just cram a lot in?
Boy, I don't remember. I think we pretty much tried to always finish with the artist in one day. I suspect we did finished her in one day.
Yeah.
One probably long day. Often when the guest star was there, it was often a long day.
Wow. I remember with Garth Brooks, we were there until he shot until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then he had to do Good Morning America, the East Coast And so he did that. He did that in his trailer.
Yeah, he worked straight through. He worked straight through. I remember at 3 o'clock in the morning, it was like, Brian, come out, come and hang out. And I was like, I'm so tired, Garth. And he was lovely. He was a lovely
he was
guy.
wonderful.
Ryan from Tough Pigs is saying in the comment that the episode didn't air when it was scheduled to because ABC said it was the anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing.
What?
Look at that.
Really?
I don't know.
You know what? That kind of rings a bell.
I trust Tough Pigs to know that.
You know, and even now, I watch the show, and there are some things that are dated about. Like now, you wouldn't, in a family show, you wouldn't have a bomber being a through line.
We have a New York. Ryan has now posted New York Times attribution.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Muppets episode withdrawn. So,
wow,
but then it did air eventually. I know.
Yeah, yes. But there was a gap. It looks like the Cindy Crawford, the Tony Bennett episode was in April, and then Bullock is the next episode in June.
Oh wow!
What do you think? What do you think Andy and Randy are up to these days?
That's a great question.
Oh, I don't think they're doing much of anything these days.
Something dumb. Something dumb.
They're still trying to get out of the bathroom that they can't.
They're
figure
working
out
at
how to
Sesame
unlock the
Place.
door.
Yeah.
I heard that they have a limousine service.
Oh, there you go.
It's in Vegas that pretty much just got debunked.
Just for that. Guys, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, sure. It's my pleasure. It's so much fun. It's hard to know. Am I commenting on the show or it's fun?
No,
it's really fun.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask, Brian, because in lockdown, I've been going through a lot of television, and I recently, in one day, binged an entire TV show that I somehow didn't know existed at the time, which is Jim Henson's Creature Workshop Challenge. The reality competition show, which I love. Yeah. I watched it all in one day, and then I felt like I need people to talk to about this because it felt like I was watching like Survivor or something. I was like, how do I find other people who are as invested in this show from years ago that I'm now on the edge of my seat about? Is there any chance of that coming back ever?
Oh, I wish there was. We made that for the Sci-Fi Channel, and then they loved the show, and the audience loved the show.
Oh, good.
And then the Sci-Fi Channel had to slash their budgets because generally as a channel, they weren't doing what they needed to be doing. And they sort of said, can you do it for half the price? I was like, no, there's no way we can. It was such an ambitious show. So no, I was hoping to do another season. I was going to travel it around. I was going to do like Creature Shop Challenge in London, Creature Shop Challenge in Paris, and find artists around the world. And it was a really cool. Honestly, we were telling those people, I mean, if you saw the show, we were telling those contestants to do things in 3 days that we would never try to do in less than 4 weeks. They were doing in 3 days what we would do in 4 weeks.
That's the thing I like about it is the challenges are very difficult and the talent, the ability of the contestants is so high. I mean, unlike a lot of other shows where you're kind of giving faint praise for whatever they've done, managing a hot dog stand with Gene Simmons or whatever. That's a show that's really like intense artistry. I love that show.
And it was good, but we were using the same booking agents that were doing Face Off for Sci-Fi Channel. So Sci-Fi had already sort of established that you can do one of these, highly specialized talent competition shows at a very, very high standard. And so we used that same casting group to find our contestants for Creature Shop Challenge. And it was an exhaustive process. They went to every university, every industry magazine. They did interviews and auditions all around the country, like everywhere. It was amazing watching them work. And then the level of talent that came in was extraordinary.
That's great. Brian, someone in the chat does want us to show the thing that our fans sent us, which someone made us puppets of each of us. And
there you are.
Yeah, it's wild. But they wanted us to bring these on again.
Yeah. Now, Brian, is there what can fans do? Because I know there are a lot of fans that would love to see Muppets Show and Muppets Tonight show up on Disney Plus. Is there anything that fans can do to try to? Would you say the best thing is to let Disney Plus know and try to watch all the Muppet stuff they have?
I think you have to let Disney answer that. And the tricky thing is it's an old show with a lot of music and a lot of famous artists. And whereas in the past you'd say, oh, we're going to do a DVD release in America. So you just have to clear the American rights. The hard part with Disney Plus is when you want to put something on Disney Plus, you have to clear the entire planet. And I think that's been the difficulty, but I think you have to ask Disney, but I kind of know that they're figuring it out. So I think the fans won't have to wait too much longer.
Good reason so people can be hopeful.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
There's a new hope. There is a new hope.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to see you guys. Kevin, you're staying, aren't you? Are you staying or are you going?
No, I think Kevin's going to bounce because we have some other guests popping in.
Yes.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Thank you, Ryan. George, Watto, we're going to end this stream and we're going to pop into the next one. Everyone watching, hang out here and we'll be back in 1 second.
All right. Bye.